excuse me. Preparing to live stream. All that good stuff. Setting up your meeting for YouTube Live. And we are live. Everybody, you are watching and listening to the We Are Rizin podcast. This is your host, Andrew Benjamin. I'm joined by my returning co-host, first podcast of 2022, Jay Christian Gary from Focus Fights.
What's good, y'all? Happy to be here, even though I wasn't a part of the Grant Bogdanove interview. Y'all can check that out on the YouTube as well. And of course, as usual, when it comes down to these Rizin events, we got our good friend originally from Indianapolis, Indiana, and CJ Charles Jewett, who now resides in Japan and is up at the crack of dawn doing this. And our friend from California, I think.
That's
JayWolf.
right. Yes, sir. Yeah. SoCal.
Our favorite Rizin fan from SoCal. We're glad
thank
y'all.
you, brother. Appreciate it.
And but before we get into the card and I guess stuff that happened after the card, CJ, you were there live, Saitama Super Arena. What was it like being at this or I guess last year's New Year's Eve show?
Well, I mean, it was my wife and I and our friends. We had a great time. It was the first event probably since the pandemic started in Japan that was at full capacity. So, I mean, it was crowded. Like the hallways, it sometimes felt like you're boarding a train. There's just 22,000 people walking around. So it was insanely crowded. The crowd seemed into it. And there's a lot of big fighters on it. And I guess my biggest takeaway was people were cheering again. And Mikuru Asakura just came across as the biggest star in the promotion. Like it's now cemented in my mind that Mikuru is number one in the promotion.
Were they cheering for Mikuru during his fight with Saito?
Yes, very loudly.
I'm honestly surprised. I kind of figured that Saito, Japan loves the underdogs and all that stuff. They like, kind of like those types of fight. I seemingly preference. I figured that they'd be on his side, but I guess.
Well, Saito has like sneakily built up a fan base as well. But I mean, it was just it was just obliterated. There was a call, like a Mikuru Asakura call going on. People were chanting his name in the crowd. People went absolutely nuts when he went out there. And to me, it's obvious now that Tenshin's number two and Mikuru is just that much more popular than he is.
Mm-hmm. What did you feel the length of the show? Because you were there for I think probably about 8-7 hours, maybe. Was it like by the time they went to Fuji TV, were you just like exhausted and just like hoping that everybody finishes in the first round?
Not necessarily, no, because I was actually enjoying it. My wife was making fun of me. I like woke up that morning and was like making all my own snacks for the day. So they let you bring snacks and drinks into the arena. So I was like preparing everything. I'm like, it's gonna be a long day. All of the fights felt important. That's what kept it from getting boring. Was that the few fights that I wasn't necessarily interested in happened early enough on the card that when the fights that were happening, when I would have normally be tired, they all felt important. So I was kind of into them.
I'll say
a funny thing, and I hate to interrupt, even though it's kind of my thing, but still, only half of the card. What the hell am I saying? Only half of the fights on the Rizin 33 card ended in a decision or went the distance.
I just wanted to reiterate what you said about the snacks and the drinks. I find that fascinating that security, the venue, do not care about that. Like you cannot do that here in the US. You try to bring in a bottle of water, they tell you to throw it away. So I've always just
it's nuts because it's like the same, like Japanese movie theaters, sports arenas, people just bring their own stuff in all the time and nobody ever stops them. And I would also say Saitama Super Arena isn't equipped to like serve food to that many people. Like the lines at the food booths look like they're an hour long. So people that bring their own stuff are super smart. Now it is kind of weird because the guy behind me had his own bottle of whiskey and got super wasted. The guy behind me drank an entire bottle of whiskey and then like spilled something and then just got like escorted out and left.
I went to Kirk and Hall for a Dragon Gate show, after I learned that you could bring in like anything, I went to, there's like a 7-Eleven like around where Kurikan Hall is, 7-Eleven or Lawson, whatever it was. I bought like half a dozen strong zeros and just brought them into the meal. I didn't even I had a bag, and the security guy looked at my bag and just like told me like you could go through, and I was just like, oh my god, that's so cool.
That's a perfect example, because none of these are, it's not like the US where there's like a food stand every 10 feet. Korakuen Hall has one concession stand that it's like a line of like one person at a time. So to get anything
also,
in that line, it's
you
gonna take
remember it's in that
forever.
that hallway is small, incredibly small. So like if you're online, you're like bumping into people who are waiting to get into the smoking room or the bathroom, or who are like trying to go outside. So like,
you just reminded me, the line to the smoking room at the Super Arena is absolutely massive. You're just like, the biggest line there is people waiting to smoke.
by the way, just in case what I mean by smoking room is, so Japan seemingly has a lot of smokers. I don't know why, and yet everybody
super
there
cheap over here. You
and
buy a pack
everybody,
of cigarettes for like $1.
and then everybody lives in 90 or 100 there, so I can't explain why or why not. But yeah, a lot of venues, places will have like a room where you can just go in and smoke, and it's just everybody smoking, and just like the room is just like just covered in smoke.
It's not a room for casual smokers. It's a room that the walls are like stained yellow, and you're just in a cloud of people smoking.
I went in just to see what it'd be like. I could not breathe. I had to immediately like go out because I just got like all that stuff into my mouth. But I didn't even know Saitama had one. I knew that Kurikan had one, and I know
it's not really like a smoking room. I think it's like a giant balcony. And everyone goes out there and smokes. It's a giant line.
Gotcha. So yeah, we're gonna get into the card. Actually, quick, one more thing. You said you also watch it on Fuji TV as well, right?
Well, my wife recorded it on Fuji TV so we could watch it when we got home. So I have seen the Fuji TV broadcast, and we went to the I went to the Fan Expo, and we also went to the Rising New Year's Eve party that they had a couple days before, where I won a rock paper scissors tournament.
Did you win at the Fan Expo? Did you pay for $100 shirt or whatever absurd thing that they priced?
No, I will admit we went to the Rising shop because every January 1st, Rising creates a special mystery bag for the first 30 customers, and we bought the mystery bag.
Oh yeah, just to let everybody know. Yes, they have their own shop in
Roppongi.
Roppongi.
It's in a very expensive neighborhood. You'll regularly, like, the cars driving in front of the shop are Ferraris and Porsches. It's in a very expensive neighborhood.
Jay, I guess a good comparison to Roppongi would be like Beverly Hills or Orange County in California. So you probably know exactly what that whole thing.
Oh yeah.
The Rising shop is absolutely tiny, but they do crazy things. Like the 30 presents, the presents included autographed gloves, signed posters. I got one thing I was very interested in, and one thing I wasn't interested in. I got a Shuto Watanabe signed object, and then I got a Motoya signed object. So it's kind of a wash.
So basically, CJ, what you're saying is that Rising shop is bigger than it seems to be.
What's saying is that Rising shop must watch this podcast and be like, let's screw with this guy and give him who he wanted to be in the match and who was actually in the match.
In fairness, almost all stores or like specialty stores or niche stores in Japan are tiny. New Japan store is tiny as you can walk around. You can literally walk around it in the entire store in like 30 seconds.
It's like walking into it's like a big walk-in closet, but it's essentially like the front entrance to the actual Rising office. The actual Rising office is behind it. So whenever you see like them doing events, remember back a while ago where they were doing the talk to a fighter and make a charity donation to help them during these hard times? That was at this place. So they also do a lot of fan events there. So you can like meet fighters there. Like that's when they had Horiguchi come and sell stuff at the store. Wrapped around the building.
We have a question, CJ. Daniel from Poland, our good friend Daniel, who covers all the stuff in Poland, KSW, and also covers Rizin and all that stuff. He wants to know what your favorite Saitama Super Arena food is.
Oh my God. I'm so boring. I was actually going to buy it at the Super Arena, I know they have a KFC in there, so I'd probably just buy like a chicken sandwich. But I did notice a ton of people were eating churros. So there must have been some place selling churros that was like a hot option. But like the food is very simple. I think they have like, maybe they have corn dogs. Then they have like popcorn. Like it's not like super fancy stadium food at all. It's like very basic, which is why most people bring their own food.
So basically what you're saying is it would be a damn good foodie international field trip for like a foodie like myself.
Well, like the Saitama Super Arena has a bunch of restaurants outside of it.
Yeah.
And so during the intermission, people are like hightail it to try to get a seat at these like there's like ramen restaurants, there's Chinese restaurant, there's a Starbucks, there's a bunch of stuff outside that people try to go to.
Daniel also he says he remembers when he was at the expo that they were selling Rizin champagne in 2017. Not gonna lie, it probably would have been fucking nasty champagne. I'll tell you.
This year's expo kind of sucked, to be honest. Like the whole thing was like, you can come see the Rising Cage, but I went to the one in 2015 that was absolutely awesome.
That was
2015
open weight or the
it was the very first one.
Okay.
And they had like a booth for every promotion that had allied with Rizin. So there was like a Deep booth, a KSW booth, a K1 booth. And every single one of them had all of the round girls there. And a bunch of fighters were at like different booths too. So it was just like a lot more fighter and promotional involvement in the older one, where this year just felt kind of like, come look at some pictures of Tenshin. Here's one of his old jackets. And here's the cage. Thank you for your time.
Remember this, they're doing with COVID this year, though. That's why.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I know. Crap.
I know that's why it's. Man, it's just people seem to be enjoying it, and the Rising Girl that's always in their YouTube videos was like live streaming from there. So I mean, it was fun, but
when I was there, they had
another victim of the pandemic.
They had pro wrestling going on in the I guess the main hall or whatever that.
They did. They had pro wrestling going on, and I think Shoji, who is now nicknamed Doko Demo Shoji, which means he's everywhere. Shoji was up on doing interviews in the wrestling ring as well, so he was definitely.
And also, they were doing jiu-jitsu tournaments as well there when I was also. Were they doing that?
They might have. I didn't see it. They have done that in the past. They've done like grappling, amateur MMA in the past. They've done kickboxing, pro wrestling. There's normally something going on, but I think this year is just kind of slapped together. But I'll say that the fans did seem to enjoy. They were all going inside the cage and taking pictures and stuff like that.
Daniel says that he loves the gyudon, but it wasn't from the kiosk. It was from the additional food stand, the street food outside. I know what he's talking about because there's like when I went there was street food, and then there was like gym companies as well, or MMA gyms, like they had little booths as well, trying to like sell their.
That's way better because the actual food at Saitama Super Arena is weak, but getting a gyudon bowl, which is just rice with sliced beef on top of it, is absolutely delicious. So I agree.
I definitely feel like the Tokyo Dome has much better food than Saitama. That's what, at least my opinion.
Well, I heard like in the US, there's like this trend now in baseball stadiums to serve like really good food.
Oh yeah, but
because they've realized that people are willing to pay for it.
You know what? The one thing I will say is that there tends to be a lot of arenas here in the US that do a lot of weird experimentation with their food. Like, for example, here in my neck of the woods, Houston, Texas, at Toyota Center, there's this new hot dog that has like not just cheese and bacon on top of it, but also macaroni and cheese, and for some odd ass reason, Fruit Loops on top of it. And you can imagine how gross that shit is.
Well, I can tell you the biggest abomination of all time is that the United Center serves DiGiorno pizza. So that Chicago's own stadium, the home of the Bulls, of whenever the UFC comes to town, of Chicago hockey, serves DiGiorno pizza.
Like, it's that bad. They don't even trust their own deep dish pizza. They just like, you know what? Let's pop in a DiGiorno.
I'm so stupid, by the way. I saw that it cost $10, and I assumed that I got the whole DiGiorno pizza. I was like, oh, DiGiorno pizza for $10, that's not that bad. And it was just like a slice. And I'm like, this stuff costs like $1 at Target, right? Like, what the hell are you doing?
That's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. That's why I'd rather starve than go to any, than buy anything here.
Just beer only at the game.
Oh yeah, beer only. Yeah, beer or do the what do you call it? The tailgate. You do the eating outside when you tailgate.
That's right.
Here's another CJ. Does anybody tailgate really at any of the?
No, it's kind of. I think that's kind of a unique American culture because no one drives. So
okay, that
bring
makes sense.
stuff with them.
I mean, it'd be a lot cooler if they did, but to each their own.
Yeah.
But still, though, before we even talk about the rest of the card, and I know, Andrew, you want to get into this, to cut off any time constraints. But even though this fight was, I think, 6th or 7th on the card, and obviously, Andrew, you have it in the background, we got to talk about it. Atsushi Shibatar Saito versus K1 star, former Glory Tournament champion Yuta Kubo. We all know that Shibatar, the so-called Japanese equivalent to Jake Paul, defeated his 2nd consecutive K1 fighter via armbar submission. Last year, he beat Hiroya Urabe via armbar. This year, he beat Yuta Kubo. He of the I have this crazy Power Rangers cosplay dressing wife of mine variety, who sings her little heart out. Anyway, Shibatar defeated Yuta Kubo in 2 minutes, 16 seconds of round 1. But the controversy is is that the fight was kind of rigged because there was a bunch of.
Chris, I have to interrupt. So I have like a timeline here that I'm going to read. Like, okay,
right,
so
because,
like you said, sorry, CJ.
Because at first it sounded like they agreed to sandbag. Now it seems like it was legitimately rigged.
Well, here's the thing. I hesitate to call the fight rigged or fixed at this point because they never agreed to a finish. That to me is what makes the big difference. However,
I thought they literally spoke about Kubo winning it in the second round.
Oh, they did? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Shibatar was like, maybe you land like a high kick or something and I go down the second round. I don't care if I win or not.
Okay.
So this is basically a weird story. And of course, Andrew, you have everything transcribed. I was about to put out an article for Focus Fights, but of course, me being a lazy fuck, that's never going to happen. But still, though, when it comes down to everything that you transcribed, Andrew, since nobody else was really doing it and nobody's really covering it, what did you pick up on it?
Well, here initially, what I thought was there was no finish discussed. I did not hear anything about that. CJ, you're actually the first person to actually say that. So if that's true, then I have to change my definition of this fight being from not being fixed to being potentially fixed.
Well, I mean, I don't think they decided on the finish, but they were definitely saying like, I mean, there was evidence that Shibatar was saying in the recording, like, maybe you land a high kick and you win in the second round. Because the whole thing was that, I don't want to step on toes, but the whole thing was essentially Shibatar was saying, I'm an old man. I'm not in good physical shape. I don't want to get injured. He was injured?
Did he say like he was injured, he couldn't take a punch or something? And that if he...
I think he was saying he didn't want to take a punch or get injured, that he would get injured.
So he was completely playing Kubo. He just played Kubo like a fiddle, dude. And
that is what Kubo is saying. And now Kubo is also saying that Kubo has Asperger's and ADHD.
I saw that. He's ADHD and Asperger's. For why
that makes sense, though. Why? I mean, the finish was all weird because Kubo was like legitimately confused when the fight ended.
Well, here I actually rewatched the fight, and if you watch it, Kubo does not throw any punches. And if you think about it, you're like, in hindsight, it's like, why did a kickboxer not throw any punches?
Oh. It makes a lot more sense when you realize that they were playing with grounded kicks and everything. Why did he not kick Shibatar's head off when Shibatar fell to his knees and like did the fake begging?
That was hilarious. Though I have to listen. And by the way, E-Fights, they described it as Ric Flair pose or whatever, Ric Flair begging. I was dying when I saw the.
Oh my goodness. But all I can say is, as somebody who used to be on the autism spectrum can describe, I mean, I would basically call that fight, and Kubo's explaining, a whole crock of bullshit. Because he knew what he was stepping into the ring against, even though, yeah, I will say it this time around, Shibatar is an idiot.
Well, here's also the other thing as well. So Kubo basically said, yeah, I agree to this.
Let me finish, dude.
Sorry.
Basically, I was saying Shibatar is an idiot because he knows that he's facing off against guys like Hiroya, like Kubo, who are normally fighting guys who weigh 140 pounds, 150 pounds, and he being a 195 or 200 pound man is basically getting these easy fights against guys who weigh about 50 pounds less than him. He's like a damn bully. Oh, and by the way, Daniel from Poland asked, now that this whole thing has gotten out, does Rizin receive, is Rizin, who is receiving this fight, gonna get some huge blows for the general backlash of this story to the public?
CJ, what do you think?
Not necessarily. The most damaging thing to Rising, I believe, is that Shibatar, Kubo, or no, Shibatar in the recording told Kubo that Sasehara was okay with the fight being fixed.
Just to let everybody know, Shiichi Sasehara is the Rising PR guy. And, I don't know why you name drop the PR guy, I don't know what he has to do with the fight. So, but that's whatever Shibatar said.
Lying. He was lying to trick Kubo. And the whole thing was he was trying to get Kubo to take it easy on him in round one so he could last to round two. And then they were supposed to have the finish in round two is what they were supposedly talking about. But then Shibatar played him and told he submitted him in the first round. It did not go to the supposed script that they had planned out. It didn't go according to plan at all. Shibatar, what it was is Shibatar totally played Kubo and just took the victory from him. But this is also, it's so disappointing because Shibatar was the Shibatar samurai, but this is totally a dishonor the code of the fight. And Shibatar, it just sucks. I'm so disappointed in them, but at the same time, this is like, did you read King Silo's tweet? C2, he was talking about how Rizin is going to sue them, and that Rizin's pissed off about this, and I don't believe that the Rizin PR official knew about it at all.
I don't either.
I think that was just Shibatar making a fool of Kubo and trying to trick Kubo into agreeing to this. That's all it was. And you know what? Rizin's taking the right approach to sue them and come down hard on them. Just like when the UFC had a fixed fight with Bang versus Kuntz. Remember that one? They had severe punishment for that one too. And the UFC was not involved in that one. And it's just like Rizin is not involved in this. And that, like I was saying, there's no money exchange. The fight, they didn't go play it up to the script. It was just Shibatar trying to make it go to the second round and trick Kubo into taking it easy on him to last the second round. That's all it was. And then Shibatar played him and finished the fight. So I don't even really consider it that much of a fix, except for, it's just it's a blot on Shibatar's record. And now it calls into question his Hiroya fight as well. It's just, it's a bummer, total bummer. But at the same time, just get him out. Just don't help. Just come down harsh on him, penalize him, sue him, whatever, and then just move on. Because you know what, the whole show was fantastic, and it does not deserve to have this blight on the show at all. And also, like you guys were saying, it plays into the whole Zuffa smear campaign. Yeah, the Zuffa's UFC smear campaign on Japanese MMA.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'll tell you this: it's literally getting no coverage here.
Well, good. That's good. That's a bright side thing.
I saw more coverage of Poirier's hand job adventures than the Shibatar. I have not seen MMA Maniac or Sheer Dog or any of these places cover it at all. And I don't know if that's because it
wasn't really a fix. That's why, because it was not a fix. They see what it was. Shibatar tricked Kubo, and let him go to the second round or whatever. And then he totally went back on that and just submitted Kubo. And Kubo got butthurt about it, getting played for a fool. And that's why he leaked the conversation beforehand. And I think all that conversation was Shibatar lying to Kubo about the Rizin PR guy or whatever they name dropped. I think that was all made up to get Kubo to agree to it, because Shibatar was also saying that, he was threatening to pull out of the fight if he didn't agree to let it go to the second round, right? So, yeah. I mean, it was fake to get Kubo to take it easy so Shibatar could beat him. That's what it was.
Sorry, Chris, I know you want to say something, but I just want to get to you, Jay. I'm sorry, Jay, you want to finish your thoughts?
No, I'm just saying, look, the UFC had a fixed fight with Bang Kuntz. Okay, and that one, they just penalized them like they should have, and they moved on from it. That's exactly what Rizin should do. It was not their fault. They should just penalize these fighters and move on. That's it, and just send the message that this is not acceptable. Your Zuffa smear campaign is full of lies and bullshit. We don't fix fights. The guys are not all juiced up. We're not all whatever the other bull that we're not minor leaguers, as you can see from our guys like Jiri Prochazka and Mano Cape kicking ass in the UFC and on the way to the belts, okay? So there ain't no minor leaguers. All these guys are not juicing, and they're not fixing fights, okay? So the Zuffa smear campaign that's it. That's all I want to say. The Zuffa smear campaign is bullshit.
I see the hand, Chris. Just hold on to your thought. I just want CJ to finish his thought, because an hour ago he was about to say something.
Go ahead. Well, sorry, I just wanted to rant. Sorry, go ahead.
It was about the Rizin and
to answer Daniel's question.
Yeah.
About, I think if a fight was going to come out as being fixed, this is the best one, because from the very start, this fight always had a very pro wrestling feel to it. I mean, one of the guys involved is legitimately a pro wrestler. I think, and there was like a giant weight discrepancy. The whole fight seemed very circus, very like freak fight-esque. So I don't think it surprises that many people, especially Shibatar with the way he was acting in the opening round. Like, it seemed much more, this fight's about entertainment. This isn't deciding the next number one fighter in the world. So I don't think people are as surprised, and it literally has no consequences on anything if this fight was fixed. And so I just, like, it'd be one thing, like if the Grand Prix was fixed, yeah, that's bad news for Rizin.
Yeah.
This fight being fixed, I don't think affects anything. And I mean, it could upset Fuji TV or someone like that, but I just don't see that being the case. I think what they're more worried about and what they're more concerned with is like Mikuru Asakura as a superstar. We have Tenshin and Takeru on the horizon.
That's right.
6 months. In 6 months,
and also,
no one's talking about this.
They paid him like roughly $50,000 or whatever. They paid him a lot of money, Shibatar, for that fight, and basically tried to make it a pro wrestling fight. So it's kind of like Rizin says, "Hey, we're paying you to fight," and then you're not fighting, or you're trying to do underhanded things with the fight. So
I don't think they're going to sue them or anything, because Japan's like a lot less litigious than the U.S.
King Silo. Jay Chris, you know who King Silo is. He helps with focus fights. He had some replies. He was reporting saying that Rizin was already looking into lawsuits against them. So
yeah, possible, but
and you know what?
I assume most of the consequences will be like behind the scenes. Like Shibatar's already announced that he's retired from martial arts. He's never fighting again.
Bullshit.
And I don't think Rizin would be interested in book. I mean, if Rizin booked this fight again, I think it'd be hilarious, and I'd absolutely watch it. So
yeah, just book it as an exhibition. Don't book it as a fight. Just book it as an exhibition in case this type of crap happens. It's just like it's so pointless. I don't like it taken away from the rest of the card, because the card was fantastic. It was amazing. You can't name 10 better cards this year than the New Year's Eve special. So,
Chris, what were you gonna say?
You know what? To be honest, Rizin is in every right mind to sue. Well, they don't really deserve to sue Kubo as much as they deserve to sue Shibatar, Atsushi Saito, because really, if they wanted to do this as if they basically wanted to try and treat this like it wasn't real, they should have just had it like it was a professional wrestling match and not like a actual fight. They should have basically treated this like a professional wrestling match instead of just made it an actual MMA fight. But still, Rizin is in every right mind to sue both of them because, in all honesty, they cheated the fans out of good entertainment. Yeah, even though Shibatar won via hardbar submission, this could go very, very bad and very, very consequential for whoever Rizin decides to get next from the world of social media. And as far as, things like that are concerned, obviously we mentioned the Taehyung Bang Leo Kuntz fight.
That was in
happened.
the UFC. That was fixed in the UFC.
If something like that were to happen here in the United States, as Jay and Charles, obviously y'all both know, and Andrew, you to an extent as well, if something like that were to happen in the United States, and I think the only one that was closest to that was Justin McCauley versus Kimbo Slice, the whole promotion could get shut down, a la Elite XC.
Well, wasn't that was that the silver? What was that guy's name that Kimbo Slice fought? The Silverback, whatever.
Oh yeah, it was Seth Petrozelli.
Yeah, it was Petrozelli. Yeah,
not McCauley, but still. Point of the matter is that Rizin is just happy that this fight did not take place in any other jurisdiction but theirs, which is the Epic Rizin rule set, of course. Not under Japan's MMA commission, not under any foreign commission, but still,
I gotta disagree because I think Rizin is going to try to ignore this as much as possible.
Of course they are.
Try to ignore the Rising Daisuke because I mean, one of the most prominent faces in Rizin is Takada, who was like involved in Pride's one like very well-known fight.
Nobuhiko Takada versus Mark Coleman from like 22 years ago.
Mark Coleman's like, here's my arm, take it. Like one of the most like blatant fixed fights of all time. So like, does he really have the moral authority to go up on stage and talk about how terrible fixed fights are?
I would say yes, because that was a different era where pro wrestling, MMA wasn't really developed. Even Pancrase when they started. I think Bass Rutten and Mark Coleman or Ken Shamrock, they've admitted that like that Pancrase
Marco Huas is what you're trying to say.
Yes, that some of those fights were that they were scripted. They really actually did hurt each other apparently, but that they decided outcomes and then basically told them to actually go out there and make it look like a realistic MMA match. I think for that era you can. But
I think the Pancrase stuff gets a pass, but I don't think Takada Coleman gets a pass.
Okay, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Because they were trying to build up to Takada and the Gracie thing and that whole thing. So I totally get it. But like I think now it's like, and I've talked to and you probably know I've talked to someone at Rizin, and it's probably obvious who it is, who said that one of the reasons why that they wanted to do was curb this whole notion of like Japan's all fixed fights that they bring in foreigners to lose and all that stuff. They want to make a legitimate MMA kickboxing fight promotion that basically is all legit. And I know Jay, I know you're like saying that like that's just Zupa, whatever, but listen,
smear campaign.
All the stuff in the past, though, there was a lot of pride, giving people fights like the week of or changing opponents last minute and letting them do steroids and all that stuff. Listen, not kosher, maybe then kosher, not kosher now. But Rizin wants to be a legitimate promotion that is on a high level. I mean, they're on Fuji TV. They have legitimate stars that get millions of views on their fights on YouTube. They want to actually they're the number one promotion in Japan. So they want to actually they want to be a legitimate, well organized, well run promotion. And they are. And something this.
They already are.
I don't think this thing app makes them look bad at all.
There's like silver lining in it too. Can't you just say, oh, this fight that was fixed, people figured it out almost immediately. Like if fights are fixed, people know.
I do.
And all of our other fights have been legitimate. The fake fight came to light almost immediately. We had no involvement in it.
Yeah. So Rizin has no, they should get no scorn or anything. Now, if you want to say that they should respond to it, I think they eventually will. I think, at press conference, I'm guessing one of the reporters is going to ask about it maybe, or they might put out a statement later. I guess that is true that they're going to sue them, right, CJ?
I haven't heard anything about that, but
that's what eFight, King Siwo posted the article, and that's what it translated to, that they're going to sue them. Listen, I think that Shibatar is the villain in this, regardless. I think Kubo.
Of course he is. Dude,
I think the takeaway.
Kubo
the
does
main
not.
takeaway is that Kubo is just really stupid.
He is.
Exactly, yeah.
He looks like he doesn't know where he is half the time. Like whenever he's giving interviews, he's like, "Why am I here?" He just has like that deer in the headlights face.
Well, he's just incredibly naive and stupid, because I think he got confused because this guy who's a pro wrestler was saying, "Hey, this is just gonna be like a pro wrestling match, okay? And we're just gonna do it this way." And I already spoke to Rizin; they're cool with it.
Yeah,
and I think Kubo was like overwhelmed, and like, because like the questions he asked Shibatar, it's like, I've never done that before. Like, well, how does that even work? Like, so. And I think
that's the kicker, that he says he told him, I spoke to Rizin, they're okay with it. So Kubo, as far as he knows, like, okay. Now if you want to say he should have contacted the boss, I'm like, I don't know why Shibatar didn't even consider that. And then they would have told him no. And then they're like, I have no idea what that's alternate.
Because he was trying to trick Kubo. He was trying to play Kubo.
But I would have contacted my boss. If he's saying, "Oh, our boss or someone at Rizin said this,"
then you contact that person, exactly, right?
Yeah. So Kubo looks like an idiot to this.
Yes.
I don't think he should be sued. I don't honestly.
I do. I want them both sued.
Shibatar definitely, but like Kubo just looks like an idiot.
He's a part of, like CJ was saying, what he was asking in return, that shows that he has culpability as well, and he was the one that made the decision to go through with it or whatever, and then get butthurt about it and leak it.
If he was deceived, I'm a little bit more sympathetic.
I think he was willingly deceived. So,
mean, he wanted to do it. He wanted it.
I think if it was a real fight, he would have blasted Shibatar immediately.
Exactly. Yes.
Here's the big question I have.
I think he's an idiot. I think he was like, "Oh, I want to be a YouTube star.
Of course, Shibatar is idiot.
That's why I'm here. This really big YouTuber is telling me what to do, and he's making it seem like Rizin's telling him to do this too." So, I figured out it was fixed pretty quickly. I had people, as soon as the fight was over, I had several people message me and be like, "That fight was fixed," like people that work at other promotions in Japan. And so I think there's more to the story, because people immediately knew it was fixed before Kubo even released anything. So I think there'd been some rumors circulating around about it, at least for a while.
Here's the big question I have.
No, of course, Shibatar is an idiot. We all know that. We all know that he's only in this just for clout, so to speak. And I think that in regards to him being Rizin worthy or any promotion worthy, his ass ain't gonna be fighting ever again.
No, this is it. He lost the samurai status with this. He broke the Bushido code. It's over.
Two questions I have.
It's more like the Bullshido code.
Now, what do you do with the fact now that Shibatar is saying the fight was real? I said all of that crap to get in Kubo's head and make him think the fight was fixed. Because what he's saying now is, I said all that stuff to make him think the fight was fixed because I wanted to beat him and didn't think I could. So I wanted to confuse him and take advantage of it. So then, what's Rizin going to?
What happened?
What's Rizin going to sue him over if his defense is, it was a real fight? I was just playing mind games with him.
Well, here's the thing: if the contract states that like there can be no sort of like outside, whatever. I don't know what Rizin contract, if it says something like that or whatever. I'm guessing UFC contracts probably the same. Probably all MMA contracts are like that, or fighting contracts that say
the Bang Coons fight. Bang went to prison. He got a jail sentence for it.
So yeah, so if there's something in the contract that states you cannot do anything that I don't know, sullies the competition of the fight or something like that, then I think Rizin does have has a legitimate case. If they don't, then they need to hire better lawyers because they need to start putting that in all the contracts.
No, they have a case, and
I
they're
know
on
this
it
case is
right
bad,
now.
but where do you draw the line on messing people's heads before fights?
Well,
how would that be
not scripting it for starters.
How do you mess with somebody's head by telling them let's make this a pro wrestling match? I don't know. Like, how's that messing with their head?
Yeah, he said the whole thing was he was just getting him to keep his guard down so he could sucker punch him and then get the armbar.
That's
you know what?
Bizarre.
The thing I would probably think of is have these fighters not even meet each other until the weigh-in. Like, don't even have them. And when it comes down to after the weigh-in, don't have them interact with each other until the fight begins.
Look, Chris, they didn't. It had nothing to do with meeting. They were talking online on the app, basically like WhatsApp for Japan.
Yeah, they were like texting each other.
Yes, they were texting each other. And obviously, listen, Japanese fighting community is much smaller than the United States. He probably knew somebody, maybe even Hiroya, who had Kubo's number, and then he then messaged Kubo like that way or something like that. Like it's so easy for these fighters to like get into contact with one another.
What was Shibatar's most recent comment? Said a lot of people are saying that my strategy was dirty, but if I had tried to win without doing this, there'd been a less than a 10% chance of me winning. It was the only way for me to win. So, I mean, he's just saying the fight is legitimate, and he just did all this to fuck with Kubo.
I buy that. Because I think the whole time he was doing that, trying to get Kubo to let him go to the second round, right? That's what he was telling Kubo. But then he totally goes back on that and submits him in the first round when he was supposed to wait for the second round. So I totally buy that. That's what he's saying.
I just don't think
that's scripting it. That's like, I don't know.
I think Shibatar just didn't think that Kubo would talk about it afterwards.
Exactly. Kubo just shut his mouth and taking the loss like a man.
That's the question I have. So let's say if they did stick to the script and they went the way that Shibatar proposed, do you think we'd be talking? Would even be hearing about this right now?
No, Kubo wouldn't have been as butthurt because Kubo. The whole problem is Kubo got butthurt about this, and that's why he leaked it. That's the whole point. He just butthurt that Shibatar went back on what they agreed upon or whatever. Went back on the script and worked the shoot and went back on it and beat him in the first round and didn't go according to the script. So he just got butthurt about it, and that's why he leaked it. Remember, he leaked it to his buddy and told him, "Oh, don't tell him that is from me or whatever." And then they I just want this whole situation. Rizin just needs to come down on him hard, sue him or whatever. And even if they don't win the lawsuit, just sue him or send a message that this is not okay and just move on. And you know what? Because you know what? The enemies of Japanese MMA and Rizin, I'm telling you, it's the same kind of forces when it was Zuffa doing the Zuffa smear campaign, getting butthurt at Almighty Pride FC, beating their ass for years. Okay. And I believe it's no secret that I believe that Pride FC was sabotaged. Okay. And I'm worried that's what they're going to try and do again with this story. And just don't let, just come down hard on them, sue them or whatever, and then just move on from them and just say, no, we're not about that. It was totally Shibatar's and Kubo's thing. And we are so far ahead of that, so far past that. And dude, it's just move on from it. Sue them like you're supposed to. Punish them, just like what the UFC did with Bane Kuntz. Just punish them and move on, because it wasn't Rizin's fault. So
exactly. And when it comes down to the article that I'm supposed to have working on for Focus Fight, should I delete that shit too? Because
No, listen, it's definitely something that should be talked. It's an interesting topic because, like, I can't remember the last time this is Bang Kuntz, maybe the last one where like there was like a major MMA promotion had some sort of fix or not fix, or I guess fix now, some sort of shenanigans going on that were prearranged and all that stuff. And,
understood, but I'm just saying that because I don't want to piss off anybody at Rizin more so than Shibatar and Kubo.
They're not involved. Rizin is not involved. Was not involved in this at all. Shibatar and Kubo are again, I think that Shibatar is more the villain. Kubo's kind of just like he's like the Harley Quinn of this, and Shibatar's a Joker. That's how I'm balancing it in terms of like blame and all that stuff. And
Of course.
here's a one positive. And CJ, what do you think of Sarah Kubo?
Right. I love the entrances. I love how Shibatar sang for his entrance too.
With all the YouTubers. Apparently, one of the YouTubers I learned was like some woman who said that she had a bra that made her breasts grow or something.
Yes, there's a big controversy that she was also. I think you saw her at Bellator. She was at the Horiguchi fight.
Oh, that was her? Oh, yeah. Okay. So apparently he seems to hang around very
popular YouTubers.
Very not so honest Japanese YouTubers.
I think the guy with the hair, his name's Hikaru, that's like half black and half white. He like bleaches half his head. He's like an insanely popular Japanese YouTuber.
Oh yeah. Oh, do you think Shibatar's YouTube career is dead after this, or do you think
no? His videos after the fight are all doing over 1 million views each.
They are, yeah. And here's the
dude just got off a win. He's not gonna get any less popular. But as far as Kubo goes, we gotta ask, is he even gonna recover from this? Screw being Rizin worthy if he's ever gonna fight again. Is he ever gonna recover from this setback?
Well, I'm curious to know. I don't know if you heard anything, CJ. Is there? Remember, I think I think Gon interviewed I think they interviewed Ougikubo and Ishwatari and somebody else about like this whole thing, and they asked their thoughts.
Talking about it. I mean, it's like the hot topic. Anyone that wants to have a YouTube career that's a fighter right now is releasing videos about this because it's guaranteed views.
Mm-hmm. Do you think have you heard of anything like any blowback from a Brave Gym where Kubo trains? Like,
well, I know Miyata released a video about it. I haven't watched it yet, but it's got a lot of views, like several 100,000. So Miyata talked about it.
I'd be curious to know. Well, if Kubo wants to continue his career, I don't know. If I'm Miyata, I'm like, homie, you tried to fucking fix a fight, and we're trying to train you so that you don't have to do that and all that stuff. Get out of here. Go somewhere else or something like that. I'd be.
You know what? He better go freelance like Manoa Man does.
Well, I just asked my wife who watched the video, and she said that Miyata said he's disappointed. He's also happy that Kubo is telling the truth.
I guess that's kind of a silver lining. I guess I'm actually really surprised that I kind of figured that Miyata, who's been in this game for such a long time, that listen, if that happened here, if if somebody at AKA or at Alliance or any other APT, learned that they would be kicked out immediately. I don't know what happened with the Bang Kuntz thing, JayWolf, if they were kicked out.
Bang got sentenced to 10 months in prison for it after it was all said and done. And then I don't remember if Kuntz was kicked out of UFC as well. I'd have to look that up. But I just remember the final verdict of that whole UFC fixed fight, the ultimate fixed fight with Bang Kuntz, was that Bang had to serve a 10-month prison sentence.
And then we all saw what happened with Elite XC and all that stuff with Petrozelli and Kimbo. Do you think? I feel like Kubo can kind of salvage this. I don't think Shibatar can. I think that Riser's not going to work with him anymore. Shibatar will just do whatever. But Kubo, if he does some sort of public apology thing or something, remember when Gabby Garcia missed weight by 30 pounds or whatever or something. If he does,
they've never brought her back though, so the apology didn't really work.
They didn't? I thought they brought her back for the
maybe, but
I thought they brought her back.
Ruined her own career with fouls and being stupid.
She claimed that she was supposed to be on the New Year's Eve show in a recent interview.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Okay. So yeah, I think Kubo can come back from this. Shibatar though, no, but then again, Bobby Olligan was on a Rizin show, and I don't know, what the level of domestic abuse does or assault does, to somebody.
I swear, Andrew, Rizin is like the Dallas Cowboys of professional mixed martial arts or professional combat sports. They don't care what you do as far as your criminal life goes. They just care about how well you perform when it comes to fight night.
I thought you were going to say the Raiders.
Yeah, of course. And I think Jamie summed it up all the best. I think we can all agree this is all Hiroya Urabe's fault.
Nah,
Yeah.
I thought it was funny that he was in his,
the first time.
I thought it was funny that he was in his corner. I was like, oh god, that means when Shibatar wins, he just absorbs like this. He's like Shang Tsung. He absorbs the fighters into his corner.
Oh, that's a great reference. I love that walkout too with Hiroya in the background. That was awesome.
I was like, what? What's Hiroya doing in his corner?
Yeah. Oh, man, dude, that's part of why it hurts so much about this whole incident is because it was so enjoyable. And dude, Shibatar had samurai status, and he pissed it away now, and it's just like, and also, I don't want to let this discourage Rizin, the epic Rizin, from booking future like YouTube stars, like say if they got a fight with Jake Paul. But remember the Shimatov brothers. The Shimatov brothers were the Twitter fighters that fought in Epic Rizin. They did a good job. So, I don't want to discourage the Epic Rizin from bringing back the Shimatov bros or, a future YouTube star that we don't know about yet that wants to fight.
I do think there has to be a little bit of discerning of the like YouTube, because don't forget, these are YouTube fighters or influencers, whatever you want to call them. These are people who are they're clowns. They're clout chasers. Yeah. They do things to get views, no matter how honest or dishonest.
But they get those views.
Well, that's what Shibatar even said, was that Mikura's YouTube fights have had fixed fights.
Oh, I can believe that, but those are not on Rizin. Those are not overseen by the JMOC. Those are like whatever. I'm totally like fine with that. My issue is if you do bring in like YouTube, I don't know. I'm very hesitant because like, and I know that there's suspicions about Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley, and Jake Paul's other fights, which I don't think are fixed. I don't think there's any evidence to suggest they are fixed.
I mean, of course,
a Rolex watch before the fight. You don't think that giving that Rolex watch a little bit suspicious?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, to think of it, those Paul brother fights are actually overseen by athletic commissions, whether it be in Ohio or California or Florida.
Yeah.
Am I just the only one that doesn't care that this fight was fixed?
No, you're not. I'm right there with you, CJ. I'm right there with you. Just freaking let's, punish him and send a message. Let's move on, dude. The Epic Rizin is too freaking awesome for this stuff, and I feel like I'm just worried that they're the same forces, the Zuffa smear campaign forces. They're trying to sabotage us again. And you know what? But they cannot stop us. You know why? Because as long as the Epic Rizin keeps a superior rule set, it's gonna, dude. You cannot stop it. The COVID just delayed us for a little bit, okay? But now COVID's going to be over with. And as soon as the international international fighters start coming back, you guys are going to see, man. And then this year with the Takeo Tenshin super fight, imagine the Sakaki bar going to be involved. I know it's going to be at a neutral event, but if they allow if they're going to have mixed martial arts fights on that card, that super Takeo Tenshin super fight card, and they have it on the Epic Rizin rule set, dude. Because that card's that's gonna break the they're going for the record.
I don't want to interrupt your
record.
I don't want to interrupt your path. You're right. I don't want. But the last thing I'll say is, I know that this isn't the Bantamweight Grand Prix. This isn't a Mikuru fight or whatever. But the only issue is that like what I was worried about when it came out, I was like, oh shit. So we got to deal with the whole Tenshin Mayweather thing, which like. Still goes on to this day. I'm just like, I'm not in the mood to go into a whole diatribe about, so this proves that Rizin fights are fixed and all that stuff. And it's, I dealt with that during the Tenshin Mayweather fight, and it was exhausting. It was so exhausting.
Dude, just bring up UFC's Bang Kuntz fixed fight. That's all you gotta do. Like, no, it wasn't. Rizin was not involved in this. Or is the UFC the Ultimate Fixed Championship? Because the Bang Kuntz fight was actually proven to be a fixed fight. So does that mean the UFC is now the Ultimate Fixed Championship? No, I don't think so. The same thing with this one with Rizin. Rizin was not involved, just like UFC wasn't involved. So it's just punish them and move on. Let's go.
CJ, who's a special guest?
Too good.
Who's a special guest?
My dog. It's my dog, Tora.
Aw, nice doggo, CJ.
She came over, so I had to say hi.
Yeah.
And she heard us talk about Shibatar and Kubo, and she had to get her 2 cents in.
Yeah.
You know what, CJ?
She had money on Kubo, so she's pissed. So
and
that's the other thing. actually, sorry, Chris, that's the other thing. If there was betting, now, is betting illegal in Japan?
It's illegal in Japan,
Okay.
but everybody does it.
That's probably why people are
That's
pissed
the other
off
thing.
about it.
If that's the other thing is that you have to take into account. If people bet on this fight, like put down actual money I'd be pissed off. You know,
betting's illegal in Japan, yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, like
that's why pachinko halls are so like sketchy. It's like you don't win money, you win metal balls. And there's a shop next door that buys those balls from you.
Yeah, so that's the other thing is that like if we're like if Rizin did the show in the United States, let's just say, and then DraftKings or whatever was doing betting for it. Listen, that'd be fucking ridiculous that like you thought there was a legitimate fight and they were trying to muddy it while people were putting down real money that they lost or maybe
basically
won.
Trying to shake down the sports books.
Yeah, and that's how the Bang Kuntz fight got caught. You know that? If you read into how the UFC fixed fight, Bang Kuntz, how they got caught in that, it's because the guy he went to put money on him and swayed the odds, and people were like, "Whoa, what was this big odds shift?" Right towards the end of the fight, and that's what clued him into it. And then Bang he got scared, and he went against what the fix was, and he won the fight anyways. And then he was receiving death threats and all kinds of crazy stuff after it because he screwed up everything because it was supposed to be a fixed fight, right? And dude, just read the details of that. It was a UFC fixed fight, Bang Kuntz, Kuntz, and that dude. It was kind of it was the same similar thing here. They punished him and they moved on from it. That's what Rizin needs to do here. But Bang, dude, he received a 10-month prison sentence for that. So Rizin just, dude, sue them and let's move on. That's it.
You know what, Jay? I think CJ's beautiful dog in the foreground and Andrew's pick in the background is suggesting that we shat on this all too long. It's time for us to just move on and talk about
Let's
the
do it.
Bantamweight Grand Prix, Hiromasa Ougikubo's true underdog story. And you know what? When it comes down to the fact that all three of these fights ended in a decision, I'm not even going to be mad about that because these were three exciting fights that just so happened to be determining the best bantamweight in Japan currently. And yeah, we can basically, talk all day about the fact that the fights ended in a decision, but each of these three fights were just so exciting, especially the final fight of the card. Hiromasa Ougikubo, who already defeated Naoki Inoue earlier in the night, and Kai Asakura, who already defeated Kenta Takizawa earlier on in the night, fought in a rematch. And, of course, it was just good to the last strike, so to speak, because Ougikubo just had Asakura manhandled throughout the entire 5-minute round period in that rematch. And, of course, everybody thought that Kai was going to win this tournament. But, of course, Ougikubo's been having a hard-ass road just to get to here. And, he went from Ultimate Fighter runner-up, where he didn't even get put on the roster, to now one of the best bantamweights in Japan. And even though he won't get an opportunity to face off against Kyoji Horiguchi for the time being, I just got to ask, do you think that this makes Hiromasa Ougikubo the unofficial Rizin bantamweight champion now that Kyoji's focused on Bellator?
Good question. CJ, what do you think about that?
No, I don't. Because haven't Horiguchi and Ougikubo fought before?
Twice, and he beat him thoroughly both times.
I actually heard an interesting suggestion from Jamie. We were talking a couple days ago, and he was saying, with the fact that Horiguchi's coming off of such a bad knockout loss, and after a knockout like that, you tend to want to see the fighters take some time off so they can recover. I agree. I wouldn't be upset if Ougikubo took Horiguchi's spot in the Bellator tournament.
Interesting.
Are you sure about that? Because I do think that, like I said, I do think that Ougikubo is the unofficial Rizin bantamweight champion now that Kyoji has lost, even though he is still the actual Rizin world champion.
I disagree because when a guy gets knocked out, Horiguchi went stiff.
Yes.
And when you get knocked out that bad, I don't want to see you fighting again 2 months later.
I was there live at press row. He went down. It wasn't like he curled up. He was out.
Wasn't he taken out on a stretcher?
Yes. He was taken out. He gave his thumbs up and all that stuff. So obviously he was awake, but he was out for a good amount of time, like maybe a minute or two.
And that's the type of stuff where, I mean, like realistically, you want to see them take almost a year off just to make sure that their brains recover.
And
after a traumatic brain injury like that, you don't want to go get another one immediately, or else you might ruin your entire career.
The other thing is Horiguchi's been in some wars. He's taken, he's been able to weather some of the strongest, punchers and strikers in Japan, USA, UFC, VTJ, all that stuff. And this is his first official knockout. I mean, the TKO loss against Kaizakura, he was still, I think, cognizant, but just not defending properly. But this was his first dead cold KO. That's the interesting thing. If Ougikubo does, it would make some interesting matches, I have to say. Yes. I think I'd be much more intrigued to see how Ougikubo goes up against somebody like a Pettis, or I think they got the Irish guy. What's the Gallagher? You got Gallagher. Yeah. And especially because, listen, one of the things I learned about Ougikubo that from this is that this guy just is so relentless, like in the Inoue fights.
No quit.
Oh my God. It's literally, he is like the Terminator. That he is the Terminator of bantamweight, where his mission is to win. His mission will be to win or die trying.
Isn't that what he said going into the Horiguchi fight? He had like the symbol for death, I think, shaved into his head.
Oh yes, I remember that.
Said that he was willing to die in the ring in order to win the fight.
Yes, I remember that. Okay, yeah. Oh, that too as well. He put she, I think it was, on his hair. I think that'd be great. The only thing is that he would have to then come here and stay here. He had to find some sort of gym to stay at. I don't know which gym he could.
I just thought it was an interesting suggestion that Jamie had.
I think
considering how bad Horiguchi's KO was.
Jamie, I don't know if you're still in the chat. I think that's a great suggestion. I really think it is. Obviously, but here's the other thing as well. If Horiguchi was not in this tournament, I would say you could do Ougikubo and Horiguchi for the title, maybe like at the end of the year. I'd be fine with that. But like this now, Horiguchi's tied up in this whole Bellator thing. I'm presuming he's gonna beat whoever it is in the first round. If he doesn't, whatever.
They should rematch Pettis in the first round. Should rematch Pettis for the title, right, in the first round.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the title match.
I hate immediate rematches.
Really? Okay, all right.
Very against
unless it's something screwy. Like I know if it's something screwy, where like, the referee fucked up or something, I got no problem with like an immediate.
Like when Stipe tapped.
Yeah. Anything, you guys? Bellator randomizes the tournament drawing so that they can avoid rematches as quick as possible. So, any chance that we do get to see Kyoji versus Sergio would have to be in the finals of that tournament. But as of right now, I don't
wait till the finals. Man, dude, Kyoji was doing good against Sergio, you guys. He was beating Sergio. The only reason he lost is because the crowd was booing because it was on the ground, and he let the fight stand back up to try to please the crowd.
I have this.
Not getting the Bellator, but I mean, there's like now released training footage that makes it very clear that Sergio was working on that move.
Yeah, I know.
Preparation for the fight, very seriously.
Sergio would have still been on his ass if he hadn't been let up.
I think
Horiguchi was getting tired. He was getting sloppy and tired as the fight went on.
He injured his eye or his nose. Yeah, I think he injured one of his eyes or something. Like I remember one of his eyes, like there was.
He was bleeding.
Yeah,
blood coming from his eye.
He had limited vision. He didn't see the full. He didn't see the punch coming. Because he couldn't see properly. So I don't think the booing. Sorry, Jay, got to disagree with you, man. I agree with you like 99% of the time, but this is the 1% where I got to be like, no, the booing had nothing to do with it.
Really? So you think he didn't let him up off the ground because the crowd was booing?
Because Horiguchi don't care.
I don't think Horiguchi gives a shit about the booing.
Yeah. No.
All right. I don't know. It looked like he was trying to please the crowd, and he let him back up the feet. He stood it back up, so he tried to please them.
I'll say this. If he did care about the crowd and he let up, then he's an idiot for doing that. You don't let the crowd dictate how you fight. You fight to win.
That was clearly a mistake, but I mean, it's
Yeah,
why we
not a
love
mistake,
Yoji.
yeah.
I don't think a guy at that point in his
love him.
career fights that way.
Absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely. Mike Brown would never. Mike Brown, I don't think would ever tell Horiguchi, listen, if the crowd starts booing you, if you're laying on him, you need to get up. I don't think that is anywhere in Mike Brown's repertoire of training
No,
fighters.
We can use this fight to transfer to. How do you guys think about Ren Hiramoto's appearance?
Oh, I loved it.
I think Ren Hiramoto is just waiting in the wings, so to speak. I
You
think
like how
he's
he purposely dressed up like an American?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Jay, you sent me the picture of like Ougikubo. Oh, not Ougikubo. Ren was like with a crowd, and like somebody had like a "fuck Mikaru" sign or something.
Oh my goodness,
he is hilarious. I love Ren, dude.
Oh, Ren is absolutely fucking like this guy. Like, I hope that Hagiwara fights. Actually, that's something I'm really looking forward to if they do.
They just need to make sure he has the skills in MMA to back up what he's saying before he fights again.
Oh, that's what I love. I love that he just shit talk.
I gotta agree with CJ when it comes down to this. I think that Ougikubo should replace Horiguchi in the Bellator Bantamweight tournament. However, I mean, it wouldn't make sense for one guy just coming off a knockout. I mean, just coming off a knockout loss to be fighting again and replace him with a guy just coming off of not one, but 2 straight decision fights. On the same night, no less.
He utterly dominated. So actually, let's talk about the first fight that happened. Kaya Sakura, Kenta Takizawa. I don't know what happened with Takizawa on the English commentary. They said something interesting, and I don't know, Chris and Jay, you might remember this. Where I think it was Damian Brown who was saying like, you know, it looks like Takizawa might be like almost flustered by like the celebrity status of Kaya Sakura because he was literally doing nothing. And I was like, that sounded. When he first said that, I was like, oh, that sounds ridiculous. And then as the fight went on, I was like, yeah, Kenta's really doing nothing at all.
So basically what you're saying
was
Takizawa was like a deer in the headlights, huh?
Well, no, he was just starstruck. That's what I was trying to think of. Starstruck.
I thought they both had the same strategy. I thought they were both trying to counter each other because they were both thinking it's a one-night tournament. We have another fight after this. I don't want to get into like a brawl exchange in the opening fight and get injured. Which is hilarious because they both got injured anyway.
Yeah, he broke his hand on Kai Sakura, I think. Right, he broke his hand again.
Well,
right?
Kai broke his hand and Takizawa broke his jaw, and so they were both fairly compromised after this fight. But I think they were both trying to counter each other up until the moment where Kai dropped him, and then we got Takizawa actually went after Kai. Yeah, I thought the fight got kind of exciting.
Yeah, but he shouldn't have been doing that in the first and second round.
Too little too late. Yeah, it was
a little too late. And then there was the Ougikubo Inoue fight, which I think we all agree, like, did not see that coming. Like, I could not believe the first round. Remember, Inoue clearly won, and then Ougikubo he has this thing where he just pressures you, smothers you, and like even somebody like Inoue, who is an excellent fighter, like. If like he can just make anybody exhausted in 5 minutes in one round, and then if it has to go another round, it's like already done. Like Inoue was gasping for air. He seemed to just be like, I never saw him in like such dire straits in Rizin at least.
Yeah, that was a gritty comeback by Hiramasa. That's how I would like to describe that as a gritty comeback.
And
I thought Ougikubo was going to be in trouble because. Even though he won the fight, I mean, he got knocked down with low kicks. I thought his leg was going to give him some issues later in the night, especially since there's going to be an hour for it to settle and really set in what happened to his leg. And I thought Asakura, I didn't know his hand was broken, and I thought he had taken such little damage in the fight that he would be the clear favorite, but I was wrong.
And then even Inoue he tried his trademark rear naked choke, couldn't even do that. Then remember Ougikubo in the third round got his back. I thought, oh my god, if he submitted Inoue, that would have been like
crazy.
That would have been surprise of the night.
Well, like grappling stamina is very different than like normal stamina.
Yeah.
And I think that it just exhausted Inoue to be in those nonstop grappling exchanges. I know that Shu said that they're essentially bringing Naoki back to the U.S. to start training again because it's not an ideal situation to be training from in Japan right now.
Is there? I apologize. I haven't seen the latest. Let's Talk JMA. But has he said that? Is that we're gonna go back to the U.S. and then hunt for fights in the U.S. like for Bellator, UFC, or
no. He's going back to Longo MMA, and he's going back to Henzo's.
Oh, so he'll still be training in. He'll still be fighting in Japan, but he's gonna be training here. Oh, that's admirable. I mean, like I don't know, like presuming I don't know what the quarantine or all that status stuff will be like later this year. But like if he can do the travel and like put up with the quarantine, hey, listen, by all means.
Apparently, like Mizuki called him and was like screaming him out on the phone for like 30 minutes. So he's gonna come back to
Oh, poor guy.
I mean, come to think of it, Mizuki's just being a good little sister.
I gotta say though, I'll say this. This was the most emotional, I think, Rizin show, I think, in terms of who won and the comebacks and like Ougikubo proposing to his wife. Were people in the crying in the audience when he did that, CJ?
When people talk about the star power of like Mikado Asakura, I think it's very worth noting that Kai Asakura is popular, but not the same level as Mikado.
Oh, yeah,
during the Ougikubo fight, people were cheering for Ougikubo, and people were very happy when Ougikubo won. Good. I think the Rising Confessions has done a really good job of making Ougikubo like a sympathetic character. It's like, his family left him because he didn't get into the UFC.
He was living in a shitty one-room apartment. Remember that? Yeah. Like when he first started, like he was like, I don't know, I think he was living above maybe his gym, maybe even.
I think because of those Rising Confession videos, like even his girlfriend is like a mini celebrity in fight circles. Like, there's Ougikubo's girlfriend. So yeah.
Well, I mean, like,
and it's funny that you mentioned Ougikubo's girlfriend because she's now his fiance.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I was just hoping it wouldn't be like a repeat of what was it? Was it Kitaoka that got engaged in the ring and the girl afterwards said no? She just said yes because they were in the ring. Then she dumped him afterwards.
Well, also, I was worried when he said that when he said he was gonna propose to girlfriend. I was like, oh no, that's like setting up for some like bad luck to happen because that seems whenever I hear Fire say something like that, they always seem to lose. At least I can't remember the last time I remember a proposal in the ring.
Well, the new curse is that if you had a Rising preparation video made about you, you lost.
Or if you're featured, as you can see on Rizin 33, if you're if you're featured prominently and you're a champion on a poster in Japan, you lose in devastating fashion.
Well, I think people were even like saying like, please don't make any more prepared videos.
In a way, Andrew, it would be similar to how Roxanne Modafferi got engaged in the middle of the cage after her fiance got knocked out, albeit legally, but still.
Oh, I remember.
Didn't he win by DQ? Yeah.
I'm sorry, CJ. Can you repeat yourself?
Didn't he win by disqualification?
Yes, he won via disqualification.
Okay. Oh, he won. Yes, I remember hearing about that. But I mean, like, this is like, Ougikubo's I've always called him a bridesmaid, never a bride. He's now officially a bride. He's a Rizin Bantamweight Grand Prix winner, won 10 million yen, I think it was, as well, which is about $80,000, I think.
Maybe. Yeah. Oh, no, 10 million. Was he 10 million yen? Yeah, something like that. But to me, I was really happy that Ougikubo won. But it seemed like more of the story was that Kai Asakura just like fell apart.
Yeah, I actually have a theory about that. Oh, by the way, CJ says that your internet's having issues for some reason or whatever. I don't know why. Okay. But my theory was Kai was ready to face Inoue. I think he had prepared to fight Inoue rather than Ougikubo. And so that my theory is that when obviously Ougikubo won, Ougikubo is, I don't know, I've seen his training videos. He trains absolutely insane. And like, he seems to be trained to fight anybody, anytime, whatever. So he was prepared for Kai, and he probably also remembered what he did wrong in the first fight or something. So he, hopefully, I don't know what he did at Parasha, Masudo, Chiba, if they trained for any type of outcome. But it seems like Kai only trained to be ready for Inoue. Like he wasn't even considering Ougikubo at all, like in the press stop or whatever.
That may be the case, but it's just like Kai's right hand was broken. And is the case now, like if he doesn't have his right hand, does he have no offensive abilities at all? Because I was okay with Ougikubo out grappling him. That made sense to me. But when Ougikubo started hitting him and like landing looping hooks on him, I was are you broken? Like what is happening? How are you letting the shorter wrestler repeatedly hit you with punches? Like, are you going to get knocked out on New Year's Eve?
Oh, by the way, he continues his losing streak, his 3-year consecutive losing streak on New Year's Eve.
And the losing on fights with Mikado.
Yeah. He lost to Minel Cape on New Year's Eve. He lost to Kyoji Horiguchi on New Year's Eve. Now he lost to Kubo. So New Year's Eve, and even he admitted himself that like he hasn't won a fight New Year's Eve in a long time. So maybe New Year's Eve is his well,
he technically did win a fight this New Year's Eve, but he lost.
I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. Good point. So half of bad luck or whatever. He didn't win the big one, I guess you could say.
Exactly.
He feels the pressure. He feels the pressure because the New Year's Eve show is the biggest show, and that's like the biggest stage for him. So he probably just feels the pressure of it. And that's why.
Well, I think you're right on that. I think he puts a lot of pressure on himself unnecessarily. Where Shu always talks about these Japanese fighters always put all this pressure on themselves, and it's kind of stupid because no one else is putting that pressure on them. It's like, why would you?
I nickname him the Azakura Action Bros. So I'm sure they feel pressure to come out there and bring the action. They feel that they have the star power of the event, so they feel like they have to perform to show that they're worthy of that star power. I think.
Yeah, but so. Kai didn't even do that. It was like he was shut down for both the fights. Like even the Takizawa fight,
Hiromaso shut him
offensive
down.
Output.
Well, Hiromaso shut him down in that second fight brilliantly. So.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there are parts of the fight where like Ougikubo is hitting him, and I'm like, how is Ougikubo landing winging hooks on Asakura, who's supposed to be a striker?
Yeah, he was out striking him, and that certainly didn't happen the first fight when he got knocked out by Asakura.
Well, I think I've heard that Ougikubo like pretty much ignored his corner's advice in the first fight.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not a smart move, Ougikubo. This time he listened. Question, CJ, what do you think will be next for Kai or Kenta Takizawa? Or Inoue, or even do you have any thoughts on what you would do next with them?
I mean, Takizawa, legitimately, you start to seriously get questions of like, do you even bring him back to Rizin? Because not a lot of offense in the Asakura Kai fight. He ran away from Imanari fight, but he had the exciting KO against Motoya. So makes you ask some questions about that. Kai Asakura, I mean, you got to get him a win because he is one of your superstars. I think you got to build him back up.
What deep jobber would you put against Kai Asakura?
Exactly. Full swing. No. I don't know.
That would actually be a fun fight. That I think it could be a fun fight.
Yeah, throw him on a landmark or a trigger event. Have him headline one of those.
But Asakura is numbered events only. He is a big boy. He's Fuji TV.
You know what? Come think of it, you can throw Takizawa on some Rizin land shows. I mean, hell, you can even throw Inoue. You can even throw Inoue on some Rizin trigger or landmark shows as well, and also. Since we're talking about the Rizin Bantamweight Grand Prix, we got to talk about the reserve fight as well. Yuki Motoya beating Yuto Hokumura. Maybe throw Kintaro on some triggered shows as well.
Yes.
I mean, do we have to talk about this fight? But no, I'm just kidding.
It was a horseshit fight. I'm sorry. I like both guys, but it was like a totally pointless fight. Even Motoya even said that after the fight, I fought very shittily in this fight.
Well, it was frustrating because if Kintaro had turned up his output by 2%, he would have won the fight.
Yeah.
And
Kintaro also said after the fight that he thought he won.
Now, it's a weird fight. Kintaro is clearly the more popular fighter, so I could see him being on a landmark or a trigger show. But I don't know what you do with Motoya.
Trigger Osaka or something, Trigger landmark Osaka. This should not have been.
I mean, this fight should have been Imanari versus
exactly. Actually, if you want to give Kai an easy win, probably put him against Imanari. That probably is how you.
Or do you sacrifice Kai? Do you put him up against Naoki Inoue and just give us the fight you really wanted?
You're saying that you should see. I mean, you're saying that we should get Kai versus Imanari. Do you want a repeat of Sakuraba versus Aoki?
Well, if you want to give Kai a win, that's like probably the easiest win you can probably, because you know what.
How dare you say that Imanari is an easy win?
Well, I watch like he just like Imanari rolls him and heel hooks him and like whatever. Yeah.
You're basically saying that Kai Asakura versus Masakazu Imanari is gonna be a great fight. I think it's going to be similar to Kazushi Sakuraba versus Shinya Aoki from the first show.
I just know Imanari is going to do his thing, and Kai, presuming if he's smart, he'll train to not fall into that trap, and then he can either win by decision or knockout or knee or soccer kick to victory.
Yes. No, you don't see two losers, people coming off losses fight, but I mean, Asakura versus Kentaro could be a fun fight.
There you go.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
I wouldn't be surprised though if down the line they just do Inoue and Kai, because that was a fight.
Exactly.
They were planning to do, and I think
I would just like to see Kai Asakura like get some better training, like go to an actual gym and get out of the truck. I know he's got his benefactor, but he needs like serious training. I think at this point.
Interesting, I've noticed. When I follow Triforce on Instagram.
Ooh.
I always notice Kai is always there with others. He's always taking pictures of other students. He's always there, like, in the group pictures. Mikuru is never doing that. He's always either like trained solo or at some other gym doing whatever, or like whatever Mikuru is doing. I just find that interesting that like Kai seems to be the appearance seems to be there, that he's more there than Mikuru. I think
personality-wise, they come across as being quite different.
Oh, yeah. Mikuru's an asshole. Kai seems to be less of an asshole.
Kai seems to be like a friendly guy, where Mikuru is probably more selfishly thinking about his own career.
Oh,
which
absolutely.
I think as a fighter, you kind of have to do.
I'll never forget the Rise Confessions video when they were asking Mikuru's manager, like, what is your thoughts on Mikuru as a person? He's like trying to think of words to like say, and you're like, that's already what you can tell. I already know what he wants to say, but he can't say it.
What is it? Kind of like when Chris Benoit died, and they're all like, he was a loner. Yeah, real tough guy. Didn't really talk to a lot of people.
But yeah, I mean, I get, I guess, yeah, he definitely has to go to someplace else. Like maybe even Brave Gym. We see what Brave is turning out.
Well, man, it's very clear that Kai has aspirations to fight abroad. Like there's that whole period where he was like tweeting in English.
Yeah, he basically wants to fight in Bellator or, God forbid, the UFC, but fat ass Brian Campbell basically ruined it.
Yes, I mean, if he's got the money, it might be worth for him to just go check out some gyms abroad. Like go down to New Zealand, check out the gym down there.
And put him on a Bellator collaboration event, because that's happening next year. COVID's going to be done next year, and they're not going to stop us. The Bellator collaboration events are happening. Kai would
believe that COVID's done when it's done.
I have to agree with you, Jay. When it's not like
it's not the ranting, dude. We understand.
Same thing with top retention. I'm not gonna believe it till I see it in the ring. The bell rings and they punch each other. Like all this stuff about like, oh, we're gonna do the Bellator Japan thing and whatever. When it's announced and I see a card in full and it's on my television with Damian Brown or whoever talking about it, then I'll believe it. I can't hope that this stuff will happen, because
why? Hopium just worked with the Karu Tenshin super fight. Did it not?
Hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened yet. That's 6 months. Listen, shit can still happen.
But hey, it got put together, and the Hopium worked. So the Hopium will work for the collaboration events with Bellator. You guys watch.
Jamie has some comments. I'm going to quickly read them. Jamie said, as good as Ogi was, his takedowns seemed like they were easily telegraphed, especially under pressure. Surprised Kai didn't take advantage of that.
That's one of the things I was getting at was One of the things I was getting at was that Ogi. I mean, I like Ogi, but he was clearly hittable.
Yeah.
Throughout the fight, and when Kai did hit him, it looked like he was doing damage. He just didn't do it enough.
Yeah.
Which is what I thought was troubling.
You got a broken hand. You know, if your hand is that broken, you're going to use it less. You're going to use it less to defend. You're going to use it.
Punch through it. Punch till it gets numb like a boxer.
Jamie also says he would compare Imanari Taioki and Kai to Sakuraba.
Really? Stop it right there. I think it's the other way around, because I think that Kai still has a lot of power and a lot of hitting to the point where, it's going to be obvious to see the results.
And then his last comment is Kai's body's broken. Time for the mummified legs. Yeah, I definitely feel that he has miles. Kai has a lot of miles.
I'm glad that he said that, because one of my issues with this event was that, even Sakakibara after the event said that he felt bad for certain fighters like Rena and Saito, and he mentioned that specifically, who are just injured coming into this from a fight they just had, because they feel like they have the duty to help Rising get good TV ratings. And you could say the same thing with Kai Asakura. Was his hand broken 4 times this year? I feel like his hand's been broken. It's never been healed. I feel like his hand has spent more time in the past 5 years broken than it has fixed. And
was it you who mentioned about the gloves that made the gloves causing the problem?
Well, going into this tournament, Ougikubo, Inoue, and Asakura all broke their hands at numerous points in this tournament. And they all went to the same hand doctor.
Obviously, his hand doctor is pretty shitty. He's like, your hand's broken, but you can still go fight another 15 minutes.
Well, we all know that fighters fight injured, but it just seems something's wrong with Kai, because he's just repeatedly breaking his hand after every fight.
I see. No, it's just something that, and especially, at least with higher level fighters, it's definitely affecting his fights. If you can get, the easy win against somebody like Shoji, who's obviously a much lesser fighter than Ougikubo, that's no problem. But when somebody who's as strong and as pressure heavy as Ougikubo is going to just keep coming at you, then that's obviously going to be a big problem. And, it would have been interesting, if Inoue had happened, it would have just been interesting just to see what how the whole striking thing would have even been in play with that. Both their hands broken. And Inoue being the grappler, but improving on his striking, but Kai being just 90% striking.
Yeah. And it seems very clear that Kai's striking is very much his right hand.
Yeah.
I think he needs to work on other parts of his striking.
That's the one problem I always have with these one-night tournaments, Jay. And sorry, you're going to probably get mad, but that's the problem is that I feel it sucks when a fighter has to go in a fight instead of 100%, he has to go in 80%, and that sucks. And that doesn't discount the win. It doesn't discount the win ever, but just who knows how the fight would have been different had he not broken his hand? Would it have been the same one, same Ougikubo fight from last year? It was last year, 2 years ago. It's just something, one of those things that I like to see fighters going 100%, not come in with tape all over themselves or their eyes already bruised because they fought a month ago, or they're so Yeah,
but to defend the one night tournament, he didn't say that. If he had said that he had broken his hand in the quarterfinal, or in the semifinal, they would have had the reserve come up for the main event versus.
He checked. The doctors checked on them. They checked their hands. They checked, their eyes. Listen, you can't.
So it wasn't
have a broken hand. You can't just put your hand behind you and be like, no, my hand's not broken, doctor. They see that and they can actually tell a broken hand swells up. So he went into that thing with a swelled hand, probably.
Well, no, the doctors wouldn't have cleared him to go to the final. He had to get cleared to go to the final.
So no, I think they only don't get cleared if they have a very deep cut or something that can be easily open. I think that's the only time when they don't clear. I don't think it's ever happened to Rizin.
Really? You think they cleared him with a broken hand? I don't know about that one.
Because they even announced in the arena that they were both cleared to fight.
Yes, but did he know that? Did the doctor know that Kai had a broken hand at the time when they cleared him?
Yeah,
I bet they knew he had a broken hand.
I'll tell you why. Because they have to take off the gloves when they go in the back. They retape
you up going into the second fight.
Yeah.
Well,
Dude,
if it wasn't swollen yet, then he probably hit it because there's no. Dude, they would have put the
But
reserve bout in there.
if the doctor is a good
Absolutely
doctor,
not. Fuji TV execs are there being like, there's no way you're putting Montoya in the finals.
that's
And
what I'm saying,
Alright.
yeah.
also,
so-
fighters fight with broken hands all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to trivialize it. Like, remember Mark Hunt fought Bigfoot Silva with 2 broken hands, started throwing elbows in the last round. So,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
mean, Uriah Faber fought a fight with 2 broken hands.
Yep,
So,
Mike Brown fight.
yeah, so I mean, it's just a fact of fighting. Fighters break their hands and they have to fight through it.
So yeah, but it just I just wonder how the fight could have been different had they had they been 100%. That's the only thing I
Match
just
him
don't
up
like.
after the fight. Match him up in a single match before that. I mean, after
But
that.
also just to clarify as well, let's say if Kai broke his leg in the Kenta Takizawa fight, but like he had somehow won, by whatever reason, I am 100% that they would not have let him gone into the final.
Yeah, broken hand though isn't like a life-threatening injury.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's the reserve bout for? The reserve bout is there for a reason, for just that.
The reserve bout is there. Example of why the reserve bout's there. Think Eddie Alvarez in the Dream Tournament. His eyes swelled shut and he literally couldn't see.
Yeah.
So they had to put somebody else in.
Or a deep cut, or a broken leg, or
I mean, my favorite one-night tournament isn't even MMA. It was the K1 tournament with Overeem where he won. And that tournament is just such an example of what Andrew's talking about so much, just because Overeem took no damage that entire tournament and had to fight Peter Arts in the finals, who went through like a giant war with Semi Schilt. And
Yes.
he looked like a corpse spring brought out to the ring. He had like giant cuts over his eyes.
And Overeem's
like,
semifinal was a cakewalk because Gokhan Saki
broken
had like
arm.
Yes.
He had broken arm.
So the other point of reserve fighting, and this happened in Rise last year. I don't know if you followed that, CJ, where I'm forgetting the fighter. His brother.
Oh, it was in the tournament. The guy had
his brother was in the reserve fight. I'm forgetting. Oh my God, I'm forgetting the fighter's name. But like, yeah, the original fighter got injured who had won, but then his brother had won the reserve fight. So they put the brother in his place as well. Fuck, I'm forgetting. The guy who fought he fought like tension like 1,000 times.
Oh, it's the guys who's John. Who's the guys that famous friend killed himself? Kickboxingの選手、有名な友達死んだ人。Rising で天心と試合やっていた。
Are you talking about
Ibata.
Fujita?
Ibata.
No, not Fujita.
It's Ibata.
No, not Ibata. It wasn't Ibata. No.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to find it very quickly. But in that case, yeah, his brother had gotten injured during the fight. They had his brother won the reserve fight take his place because his brother was not at a level he couldn't compete. So, was it Kazuki? Was it Kazuki? Let's see. Is there somebody in the chat? Oh, Osaki, Koki Osaki. And I think he won. I'm trying to remember if he's the one who got if he got injured. Okay, I think he was supposed to fight Shiro Matsumoto in Rise, and then his brother took over Kazuki Osaki. Okay, so Kazuki Osaki. I'm trying to remember the exact timeline, but yeah, the fight wound up not happening because his brother missed weight, so they get somebody else. So that reserve match was like thrown away immediately.
But see, that's what the reserves are for, to plug in when fighters get hurt and defend the one-night tournaments. Give you that example. What about Krokop's K1 tournament that he won? That was 9 hard rounds, 3 full fights. That was perfect.
Yeah, of course.
It was awesome. And then,
one of those fights he had was pretty much a replacement, albeit a rematch against Jarrell Miller for some odd reason.
But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And even this year, K1 had badass 8-man one-night Grand Prix tournaments that went off without a hitch. I mean, they're freaking awesome. And so I don't. The reserves are supposed to be there for if a guy gets hurt.
No, not there. The reservist isn't there if a guy gets hurt. The reservist is there as if a guy can't fight again.
Yeah, if he can't continue. Yeah, no, you're
Everybody's
right.
going to get hurt. I mean, Takizawa,
right.
I don't think would have been cleared to fight because he had a broken jaw. And a broken jaw is a very different injury than a broken hand.
Yeah, And for the 8-man one-night tournaments here, there was one in 2014 that Rohan Jucal Carnero won, and then got signed to the UFC right after that, and won a top 10 fight against Mark Munoz. But well, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say, and I'll be honest, the reserve bout for this was very shitty. I'm glad that I would not have wanted to see either. Well,
I would have rather they rolled Takizawa out there again and be like, just don't hit him in the face.
I would have been excited to see Matoya in the final, maybe Kintaro, but certainly if the fighter cannot absolutely compete for whatever reason, that's why they're there. Not because they have a bruise or a broken hand or even broken foot. I think I'm trying to remember, there was some tournaments when one fighter did break his foot. I'm trying to remember which.
Yeah. I'm almost certain that a reserve bout is there for cuts, swollen eyes, and debilitating injuries.
Yes.
Yeah, and the one I was talking about here in America, that Rohan Jucal Carnero won before getting signed to the UFC, was an 8-man one-night tournament that was in Oklahoma. That was where Chael Sonnen was on the mic, and JR Barbecues from wrestling, Jim Ross, was also announcing that night. Yeah. And that dude, it went off without a hitch. 3 full fights of 3 5-minute rounds, and they had to pass a doctor's exam in between each rounds of the tournament. And if they had to pass concussion tests and everything, and if they didn't pass concussion tests or if they were injured, then they would be deemed that they could not continue, and that's when the reserve bout came into play. So you guys are right. It's not when they get hurt; it's when they get hurt to the point to where they can't continue. So you guys are right.
Right. But you know what? Let's go ahead and move on, because obviously I see a graphic behind Andrew that I think we all want to talk about. And that's the lightweight title fight between Roberto Satoshi de Sousa and Yusuke Yachi, of which Mr. de Sousa not only won in very convincing fashion, but obviously has a bright future ahead of him should that be fulfilled. You want to go ahead and explain that some more, Andrew?
Oh, yeah. Satoshi just dominated Yachi for 2 rounds. I mean, I think it was a worse beating for Yachi than the first fight. I agree. I agree 100%. I was and Yachi 2.0, whatever. Yeah. And training with Aoki, sorry, that's just. Satoshi is maybe my second favorite lightweight next to Charlie Oliveira, the Du Bronx. And one day, seeing them fight, that would be a dream fight for me. A big, I want to see this fight. But Satoshi, man, is he's gone leaps and bounds from when he first started in Rizin or when he first started MMA. And this guy is just such a savage. CJ, what do you think about just how Satoshi just basically
couldn't agree with you more that I thought this beating was actually worse than the first fight. Even though it took longer, the first fight, you always had it was a flash knockdown and that can happen to anybody. But this fight was more of a prolonged beating that just really established that Satoshi's better than Yachi. And why I thought this fight was a stupid matchmaking, because if Yachi's on this whole redemption tour, can't do a third fight now when you're 0-2 in the trilogy.
There's no third fight. You can't do a third fight until 3 or 4 years from now. And even then, I'm still not interested in it. We see what happened. We saw what happened the first 2 times. Listen, Yachi should have fought somebody else.
Yeah.
Maybe like you said, Zest or
anybody. Just they could have had fun with it and found people from anything get an arm, get a Goodridge style arm wrestler in there. Get anything. They could have had fun with it. And now it's all dead because, it was kind of a weird strategy too, because training with Aoki clearly helped. His submission defense did look better, but you're still not going to be good enough to, at that short time period, to stop someone like Satoshi on the ground. They're eventually going to get you. So I'm always confused. And it's Yachi's become predictable. Satoshi kind of mocked him with his own flying front kick at the start of the fight, because Satoshi's I know what you're going to do. I'm going to do the same thing too.
Here's the thing, Satoshi was outstruck by him. like severely. Like I know that you got a bloody nose, whatever, but clearly I thought that Yachi on the striking thing looked compared to Satoshi was just like
Satoshi was beating him up everywhere the fight took place.
Yeah. He had no answer. Like literally, it was no answer. This was, you know what this reminded me of? Recent fight, Alexander Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega. Just that type of domination. Even that Brian Ortega had like some stuff, but like just like what the pace and the what at the steps that Satoshi was taking was like, it was just like, okay, this is like they are levels above each other, and they'll probably never be on the same level.
Yeah,
Satoshi be on top, Yachi on the bottom.
I have a couple comments. My first is, this is the first time I've ever picked Satoshi to win a fight, and he won. So there we go. We have that going. And number two, I love the 100% finish rate. Extremely nice.
Yes. Even losing, even with his one loss, he got finished. So
yes, exactly. And number three, he kind of went back on himself and now is interested in fighting in Bellator, I believe. In his post-fight speech. Before that, he had said, I don't care about other promotions. I just want to fight in Rising. But I think now he wants to go to Bellator, and I'd be all about it because
him versus Pitbull.
I think he's going to have a hard time finding people with jiu-jitsu skills of his level in Rising at the moment. But in Bellator, there's a lot of fun options for him. So another good benefit of the collaboration.
That's the thing about him wanting to fight in Bellator. He's not going to get that much. I mean, he's not going to get that many choices continuing to fight in Rising, even if he defends the title consistently. When he goes over to Bellator, I mean, aside from Patricky Pitbull, who we obviously talked to before, Andrew, you know, he's going to have...
Which Pitbull brother is this? Sorry, Chris. Which Pitbull? Because I get them confused all the time. Patricky?
The lightweight champ.
Lightweight champ.
I can't tell the difference between them. They're Bella twins for wrestling nerds who understand that.
But still, point of the matter is, Roberto Satoshi de Souza is going to have a plethora of different choices, a plethora of guys with different fighting styles to face off against. And, you know, it would be fun to see him face off against an entire gamut of Bellator stars instead of just a limited selection in Rising.
Oh, absolutely. And especially with COVID restrictions. Sorry, JayWolf. There is less competition for JayWolf. I thought they brought Johnny Case into the commentary booth, which I thought was, he's going to announce something like, he's going to fight in Rising. No, they didn't do anything. They had a 3-man commentary booth.
I actually was at the New Year's Eve party, and Johnny Case Skyped into the New Year's Eve party. And Johnny Case, it sounds like they're setting up a fight with Satoshi and Johnny Case.
Well,
I think they were, because the Azerbaijani contingent and Luis Gustavo were supposed to have been a part of that fight card. I think COVID restrictions weren't a thing, considering that they were both in the commentary booth, kind of, sort of. I think I would much rather see a fight between Johnny Case and Damian Brown.
No, Case is the one person who's defeated Souza.
He mentioned that a lot. Yeah. Also, I'll say at the New Year's Eve party, I mean, Johnny Case got a good reaction. The fans liked him. They all thought he was cool. He was saying stuff like, I'm the only guy that's beaten Satoshi. And he predicted that Satoshi would smash Yachi just by saying that Satoshi seems to have gotten so much better between each fight where Yachi's plateaued. Yeah. And he just thought that Satoshi was just going to overtake him. But he's also seems very confident that he'd beat Satoshi in a rematch. And so I think that's the fight that Rising wants to make. It'll be interesting to see if that happens.
It's what they want to make. Whether it can happen, that's a different story. Saying because I think we're supposed to get Tofik and Satoshi rematch, which I would have been fine with that. I'm with you, CJ, that I normally don't agree with immediate rematches, but I think given what Tofik might have learned not to do when it comes to the quarantine in a hotel and all that stuff, maybe he would have adjusted his training and would have been a different fight. But sorry, Christian.
I'm saying when it comes down to Johnny Case, maybe treat your damn wife better, dude. But still,
in fairness, he was never. Is it charged?
He was never convicted of anything.
Convicted, yes. So
Did he even get charged, or was it
I
like
don't
a
know about
John
that.
Jones
I think he
situation
was just
where the
arrested
girl
for all
wouldn't even
that
I think
charge?
he might have just been arrested. Yeah.
and
But still, when it comes down to Yachi, I think that Andrew, you were basically saying that Yachi should have trained better. I mean, he did change
I
up
don't think
the
he
training camp.
could have had 100 years to train, and I think Satoshi still beats him. I just don't know. I think that there's just some people that it's you brought up Mike Brown before. Who's the one guy that Mike Brown's been able to defeat 100% of the time when they fought? Uriah Faber. Every time they fought, Uriah Faber beat everybody, but for some reason he can never beat Mike Brown. Just one of those things where, like, I think Yachi, it's the same outcome all the time. He could train 100 years. He could train at ATT. He could train with Miata. He could train with Aoki. Doesn't matter. I think that Satoshi is levels above. If he can't strike with Yachi in one match, he'll just take him to the ground, submit him. That's something that Yachi will never be able to catch up with.
I know that people are calling this Yachi 2.0, but I mean, I actually think that Yachi's deteriorated
I agree.
and
I
isn't
agree.
as good of a fighter as he used to be.
He's not as
And
exciting.
Yachi 2.0 is just hesitant Yachi.
Yeah.
And that just kind of takes away his power and the advantages he did have when he was on his hot streak.
He was like when he would fight in his previous matches, he would, sometimes to his own detriment, he'd be so reckless and almost be like he was like fighting like high on cocaine or something, or like he was like just like he drank 10 Bang energy drink before. He was moving all over the place. He was like, he made a lot of mistakes. He would get, obviously the Case fight he lost, and then the Gustavo fight he lost due to hair interference. So like his mistakes, but that's what made him unique as a fighter, just like, coming out the yellow pants and Crazy Bee and all that stuff. He's a less exciting fighter now. Like when I see Yachi on a card, I'm like, I'm not so ecstatic about his fights as I used to be. Jay, any thoughts on that? This fight, Satoshi, Yachi?
Oh yeah. Oh, I love Satoshi, dude. He's so good for the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community. I mean, he's got the top Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, one of the top in the game. And I love that he's talking about doing collaboration fights with Bellator. I'm all about those collaboration fights. I mean, a Bellator collaboration event with Epic Rizin is just that's going to be so much fun. I can't wait for that. And I'd love to see Satoshi on that card in the future. I believe it's coming this year once the COVID restrictions get lifted. And, I hate to disagree with you guys on stuff, but earlier you were talking about having Hiramoso replace Kyoji in the Bellator, and I disagree with that. I don't think you should do that. I think Kyoji should stay in there to try to earn a rematch with Sergio. And if you want to do something with Hiramosa, just do an interim title in the meantime while Kyoji's in the Bellator tournament. So, but I just love it. Satoshi, he's got fantastic, like you're saying, he's finished those fights. He either finishes or gets finished. And I love how he's putting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back on the map and fighting, and I love how he's talking about doing collaboration events with Bellator. And I like how they're trying to build up into the Johnny Case rematch, and they brought Johnny Case in there. And that's good to hear from CJ that at the after party, he was hyping it up, and that's what Rizin wants to book. And I think that's a great, it's just great. I love it. This fight, you're saying Yachi 2.0 is, you never know. You just give that guy time to, you never know. He could get on another run here. He's not that old, and all it takes is one win to get back on a run. So, bring like a landmark or a trigger event. But yeah, it was a great title, co-main event.
You're right, Jay. He's not that old, but he's been fighting for a long time, since 2009. Like, he's deceptively young, but the amount of years and miles he's put on his body is surprising. 2009.
I'm convinced that Yachi's like every fight of his could be his last fight at this point of his career.
He's got a hot wife who's a celebrity who's makes a lot of money. He doesn't need to be doing this. Well, actually, here's the other thing. Well, we know he's gonna be coming back because the Ougikubo sponsors love him. Is like his biggest fan. So Yachi's coming back. He gonna lose the next 10 fights. Rizin will think of some way to put him on commentary or doing something or whatever. I don't know. So
Have
he's
him fight Ohada again.
Well, sorry.
Have him fight Ohada
He
again.
should have done that fight for this. I think for this show. I think they should have done that. And then I know that he would say, "What do you do with Satoshi?" You know what? Just do the Takeda fight with Satoshi. I think. you don't have rankings in Rizin really, so you don't really are not beholden to, I guess, rules, whatever. But I guess they wanted to give him somebody who was on a win and big name and all that stuff. So, I mean, yeah, that's like, if Satoshi doesn't go to a Bellator or whatever, that's the only fight I want to see him against at this point is Satoshi versus Takeda. Like, really, that's like.
What about Johnny Case?
Well, yeah. Well, I'm saying. There's more of a guarantee of the Takeda fight happening than the John Case fights. Sorry, JayWolf.
You're still thinking about the COVID stuff. So okay, I got you.
CJ had it best. We're like, when the Japanese government says foreigners, you can all come back in, then we can start brainstorming a little bit more outside the box.
Okay, I got you.
Jamie said something interesting, and I don't know. I'm assuming this is serious, not in jest. Yachi the featherweight. Can he still even make featherweight at this point? I don't believe he could.
I mean, he looks like he's put on a lot of muscle.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd have to cut some.
I mean, the dude hasn't fought at featherweight since he was in Pacific Extreme Combat. So I highly doubt that he will be able to make featherweight now.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely not.
Either he has to drop to featherweight or they need to give him opponents that are more his level at this point in time. Which isn't a bad thing, but just give him fun fights and let him enjoy the last years of his career.
The Bay-Noah fight, I think, was a suggestion I heard someone say.
Ooh, that's a good one.
The Juntaro or the O'Hara fight, I think is definitely a rematch I wouldn't mind seeing.
Have him fight Gomi again.
And, how about custom rules bout, standing rules only fights.
You like how Gomi talked his way into now fighting on the Tenshin Takeru card?
He did?
Did he?
I think it was part of his negotiation for taking this fight short notice was that he has a fight on the Takeru Tenshin card now.
Oh, sweet.
Mm-hmm. Ever the Carney Gomi is. Ever the Carney.
He blamed Rising for ruining his family because he's not able to swim. Yeah.
Yeah, he said like Sakakibara ruined his Christmas once again, asking him to fight on New Year's or something like that.
Was it because of Rising he can't get married because he has to keep leaving on New Year's Eve or something?
Did he say that? Oh, I love Gomi.
So I guess since we already talked about Gomi, Tenshin, draw. I didn't give a shit.
Hey, just before we get off the Yachi Satoshi card, Yachi was also part of the original Bellator collaboration event. Remember? He was in the main event of that one.
That was his last really
legitimate win
against Yui Sako. Yeah,
that could be an option as well. Since he headlined one of the Bellator collab events, he could be on a future Bellator collab event with Satoshi. I mean, that dude, future's bright. I think. I don't think he's still young. I know he's got a lot of miles, but there's plenty of options. So okay, let's go to the next fight now.
Yeah, Jamie says skip this. I mean, I have nothing to say. It was just.
Can we just say that I will say that all Rising has done for Tenshin has been a platform for him to get famous, but I think the fights themselves have been a waste of time, especially the more recent ones. Minus
Mayweather and the Horiguchi and maybe Bata fight. I definitely think that it's so weird because it was almost, Tenshin became famous because of Rizin, but almost the inverse didn't happen. Rizin didn't become more famous because of Tenshin, almost.
Well, it's just like, what is this fight? I mean, I love Gomi. I'll watch Gomi fight anybody on last minute notice. One of my favorite fighter quotes of all time was when Gomi was in the UFC and he said he'd only stop drinking for a title fight. So I love Gomi. He's like the grumpy asshole uncle that everybody loves. But I mean, Tenshin, these kind of fights make me think are you going to be a good boxer? Like you're fighting a old man with a bum knee who's repeatedly hitting you and you don't seem to be able to do that much against him.
You know what? It's funny that you mentioned now, is he going to be a good boxer? Is Tenshin going to be a good boxer? Because there were times during this particular exhibition that he was struggling to just put away Gomi, even though Gomi's near his twilight years and all he ever thinks about is beer and family. But still, point of the matter is, I think Tenshin Nasukawa, as soon as he gets past his last Rise bout, as soon as the fight between him and Takeru Sagawa becomes something of reality and not just fantasy, we're going to truly see how into combat sports he truly is. Because this isn't just a payday that, he had with Floyd Mayweather. Oh, I'm just here to be famous and be the B-side. He's going to have to treat this like it's a serious thing. Otherwise, he going to probably be as worse as Reggie Strickland is.
Yeah, I mean,
I will say that when Takeru came out, there was like a legitimate pop from the crowd when he introduced himself to.
Was that a surprise?
Takeru. What?
CJ, was that a surprise?
I think it was a surprise. I wasn't expecting it, and it made it real to a lot of people. It was like, oh, it's actually happening. Like Takeru's come down to a rising ring to talk about the fight.
I definitely did not expect it.
Yeah,
because K1's been like, we don't want anything to do with Rise. So I'm actually legitimately surprised that they would be like, okay, Takeru, you can go there and make an appearance at the.
Talk about a free commercial on the busiest night of TV in Japan on live TV. They announced the fight.
Okay. Well, listen, that show, it'll definitely sell out. It'll definitely sell out. Also, I will say I did like Tenshin's speech at the end. He said that, he wouldn't be kind of like here if it wasn't for Ryzen. And I kind of agree. I kind of agree with that. Like that, the Mayweather fight certainly put him on the map. And like,
see, I thought he was crying just because he'd no longer have the chance to sleep with all the round girls and half the fighters.
I think that's possible as well.
He'd have to find new hearts to break.
I think I heard that story. Not sleeping with the round girls. I think I heard that story in way too many questionable films before.
I guess that's entirely possible.
Somewhere I just had to think like, is Kana Asakura like really happy he's no longer going to be at Rising events?
Well, now they can book her now, and they don't have to be on the same card. They can now be. It's now they are now gonna be on separate planes of existence.
How long do you guys think his boxing career is going to last? I think he's coming back to Rizin eventually, and kickboxing. I don't think he's going to.
I don't think so.
I think he's just going to go. Wait, what's CJ?
I don't think so. Boxing is so much more popular in Japan than MMA and kickboxing combined. And
so you think he's really just going to stay? He's going to do so well that he's going to stay in boxing?
If he's decent at boxing, there's way more money to be made in boxing in Japan than there is in kickboxing and MMA.
Here's the thing, though, and CJ, you probably already know this, but he's going to have to fight in the States in order to still be a boxer and maintain an MMA or kickboxing career at the same time. If he does that in Japan, he's going to get banned from fighting. He's going to get banned from fighting in anything else other than boxing.
Well, here's the other thing as well. Like, he actually brought up his MMA career, which I thought that's what they were going to do with him when why he was coming to Rise in the first place. And then he had the fight with Fujita, and he's like, I'm not cut out for MMA. I'm going to go back to kickboxing. So if the same thing happens where he's not getting the same results in boxing that he wants, will he stick with it? Because also here's the thing in boxing, in American boxing, if you lose 1, 2, or 3 fights, usually your career is done. It's a very, you don't, unless you're a huge name, Ali, Tyson,
or you're getting put on a huge platform, like you're on Stone or Premier Boxing Champions or Mayweather undercard or Jake Paul undercard.
Here's the thing. I don't think Tenshin has the name in America. Listen, he's going to be promoted as a guy who fought Mayweather, and that's how he's always going to be known as. And that's,
Well, I mean, he's going to get started out in Japan because Japan also has a huge boxing scene. And the problem I think he's going to have is that there's already 2 that come to mind, really famous, somewhat young boxers. I mean, Naoya Inoue is only 28 and is an absolute monster. The guy's 22-0, 19 wins by knockout. He's clearly the most popular boxer in Japan right now.
Would Ryota Murata be the second famous boxer in Japan?
Exactly. That's exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Inoue came to America and started beating fools here as well.
Yeah.
So,
no, but I watched. So the Japanese boxing's interesting because in the U.S. it's all about like building your fighters up. Where in Japan it's all about like get them a title shot as fast as possible, and we don't give a shit about like slowly building them up. And so I think Tenshin's gonna have a hard time. And in kickboxing, it's just kind of like him and Takeru are the only big names. And when you have someone as dominant as Naoya and then Murata, I think he's gonna have a hard time to wedge himself between them if he doesn't win like they do.
And I think the important thing is that he's got to come to Americans and start facing American boxers if he truly wants to become a bigger name. Inoue was not known really to kick.
Well, to get big, I mean, at that weight class, he's going to be fighting a lot of guys from like Mexico, Philippines, probably some Thai guys,
some Puerto Ricans, like 125, 135. I guess he's going to be fighting, or whatever the equivalent, whatever in between weight.
I feel like Inoue's big fights were against that Filipino guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I mean, yeah, to get super famous, he's going to have to go to like the UK
or Casimiro or something.
Yeah, that might be it. It was a crazy fight because I think Naoya actually broke his orbital in the fight and fought through it. I just think there's already like a super dominant young boxer. For him to take the spotlight away from that guy is going to be difficult.
Yeah, this is the final. This was the final thing for now for Tenshin and Rizin. Hopefully, the Takeru fight happens. We'll see where he goes from kickboxing to boxing from here.
Of course. And by the way, CJ, it wasn't John Rio Casimiro that you were mentioning. It was Nonito Donya.
Ah, perfect. I'm so bad with names. Yeah, thank you for fixing me on that.
Regardless, though, I thought this fight sucked. And it had no point. It was a really.
I will say,
it sucked because
it was funny because the crowd was cheering every time Gomi would land a punch.
Yeah, Tenshin's still a heel.
Wow. But still, Andrew, you only thought it sucked because it was 2 rounds of barely any action
and a draw. A draw, like so. So there had to be a winner. Apparently, I didn't know that. I thought it was going to be a decision, or it goes to decision like the Koji Gomi fights.
So I mean, this fight clearly to me had to have some like talk backstage, which was okay. Tenshin has the biggest fight of kickboxing coming up in the next 6 months, so please don't knock him out.
DJ, are you trying to imply this fight may have been fixed? Like,
it's just an exhibition, right? It's just an exhibition to get started.
Oh yeah,
and it was an exhibition.
You got to think the Rising was just like, please don't kill now. Please don't kill Tenshin.
Because
Gomi's so much bigger. Can you imagine if Gomi had landed one of his huge haymakers?
Well, so actually, I just the last quick thing: Nadaka Yoshinari getting thrown under the bus. This whole thing. What do you think?
Stupid.
Do you think do you think he's kicking himself for missing this thing, or he's like, listen, I'm glad I take this fight on 1 week's notice?
No, fighters got to be selfish, and if you're having to come up numerous weight classes on short notice to fight one of the best kickboxers in the world, I would also be hesitant.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree. And like, especially on 1 week's notice, hey, want to fight Tenshin in a boxing match, his last match? And
also, if you lose, that's the end of your career. At your point, Rising just spits you out. Thank you for your service. Go back to those knockout shows. Have some fun.
Has Yoshinari made any extra comment on it, or since?
I think he just said that what Sakakibara said wasn't true.
I didn't like how they wished him happy birthday on the official Rizin Instagram. For like anytime someone fights in Rizin, whenever it's their birthday, they always wish him a happy birthday, and they put their picture. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe that will quell the beef. Just like Kleber and Sakakibara seemingly have.
I just think Sakakibara tried to throw the fight together too last minute, and it'd be one thing if they were the same weight class, but he's so much smaller that he'd have to work his way up there.
Also, Yoshinari is being built up.
Yeah, exactly.
Fight, do you want to immediately kill his momentum and all that stuff? And maybe it wouldn't have. Maybe it would have hit. It's that risk, and I know that's the thing. That's also a big part of Japanese pro wrestling is that they'll have people go on like a losing streak, and then when a tournament comes up, they'll like win near the end of the tournament. They'll like make comebacks, and sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't. It backfires. You can't. Yeah. There's no way to predict that. And speaking of backfiring, this fight, Saito Mikuru decision. Saito did not look good in this fight at all. I
think Saito made a lot of emotional decisions going into this fight. He's coming off the loss to Ishiku, and I think he wanted to put that loss behind him. But I mean, I just don't like seeing guys take fights this quickly after a loss, and after a fight in general.
Do you remember there was one punch? I think it was during the second round, and Saito kind of like stumbled and he grabbed the ropes, kind of like. Yeah. I was like, okay, he's not going to win this fight after that. That
to me was the big change in the momentum of the fight, because the first round was a very even round. I thought that they were both well aware that the other one could hurt them, because Saito was landing some good like lead left hooks, like some check hooks on Mikuru, and Mikuru was hurting him. And I think they both actually hurt each other throughout the fight. I think Saito actually stunned Asakura at one point in the fight. But at that point you're talking about, where Asakura like almost knocked him out, that is where the tide changed, and it became Mikuru is now in charge of this fight.
That legitimately scared. Like, that's like the way that he stumbled and like kind of like it was like he had just woken up out of bed. And I will say though, I'm such like a pessimist. The one thing I took away from this also is this, that Mikuru's getting hit. He's getting hit by these hooks from Saito. So I'm just like always making notes about. Let's see if this comes back to haunt him in the future. Future opponents are watching this. But yeah, it was such a different fight from the first one. It was. I couldn't believe it. Jay, I know you're Asakura Brothers fan club president. Your thoughts? You must have been happy.
I'm the president of Ougikubo Action Bros fan club. Heck yeah, dude! I love this fight. I'm happy Miura got it, and I'm glad that CJ said that Miura got the loudest pop of the night. Isn't that right, CJ? You got the loudest cheer of the night?
Oh, yeah. Crowd went nuts for Mikuru.
That's awesome. That's good. That's great to hear. And it was on New Year's Eve, so, I mean, his star power is just elevated even more. And, Saito, I like him too as well. I mean, he's a former champ, and he has one of the best superior rule set finishes of the new era in Rizin. And, it's just I like them both, and I was sad to see. It was just one of the fights where it was sad to see one of them lose, but I'm glad that Miura was the one that won, and I'm looking forward to the next fight with both of them.
Jay, Chris, your thoughts on this fight?
I think that Asakura got his revenge. I think that it was meant to be for him to get that revenge, and I think that it was meant for him to get his name back, get that win back, so to speak. Although I don't know what this will mean for Asakura next, because as we all know, the new champion is Juntaro Ougikubo, and I don't know if this is going to immediately elevate Asakura to a title fight, or if it's going to get him to headline another landmark or another damn trigger show. As far as Yutaka Saito, huh?
Put the title fight as the headline for the trigger show.
No, you can't do that for a trigger show.
Okay, all right.
Gotta put on numbered shows, man.
Trigger shows. It's fine.
Trigger. But quote Sakakibara, trigger is for veterans and prospects, not current champions.
All right.
But still, point of the matter is, when it comes down to Yutaka Saito, I mean, I guess you would have him be filled out on those Rizin Trigger and Landmark shows as well, because you don't want him to go directly back to Shudo, because he done
all Shudo anymore. He's not with Shudo. He relinquished the title there, so he's not with Shudo.
He's too popular. He's too popular to be sent back down to the minor leagues.
Of course he is. Of course he is. So, I guess his future would probably be on numbered shows, if it's not to be on the Rizin Trigger or Landmark shows. But still, I'm kind of one-sided about. I'm kind of, neutral about this when it comes down to Asakura's future.
I definitely think that Asakura, they're going to put him next against Ougikubo. That's my big prediction.
I think so too. That's what they should do.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was Saito and Kleber on a match down the line. Then they fight the winner of Ougikubo and Mikuru. I definitely think that
Saito isn't Kleber supposed to be headlining a show?
Oh, yes, I forgot about that. Well, maybe it will be against Saito. It could be against Saito,
No rest for Saito. Just throw him to the meat grinder.
Listen, he took a fight. He got
the worst 5 months of his career ever.
He had his eye ripped open, busted open in the last fight. He comes back 2-3 months later, or whatever it is, he's back here. I would have told him not to take the fight, but that's what happens. Maybe we'll be against Kleber. I don't think Kleber is going to get the next shot against Rizin.
Well, I think Kleber is going to be on a Trigger show, they said.
Kind
of supports JayWolf's argument earlier, but
yes, that I think they said that he was either going to headline a Trigger or the next Landmark event, whichever one comes first. I forget which one it was. I think it might be a Landmark, and I think that was where the confusion was about Ren's call out of Hajiwara, because he said he wanted to fight him in the cage, which is of course the Epic Rizin Trigger series, but then he said he name dropped the Landmark series. So I think that's where people were confused about that. But I do remember seeing something about Kleber and Sakakibara making up and then saying that Kleber was going to headline the first Landmark event of the new year. So I think that's in February.
It's clearly a management issue because Kleber's got a new manager, and the next day he had a Rising fight. So
I actually want to ask about CJ. So I thought you had mentioned, or I heard somebody else mention, that the manager also manages Banzai or manages Satoshi.
Yeah, they think maybe that's Satoshi, but he was doing something wrong with Kleber because it wasn't working. And so Kleber's got a new manager now, and it worked.
Oh, yeah. You'd be surprised how much shit between doesn't happen because of managers in fights. But yeah, I think Mikuru is gonna get the next title shot. That's why I think he's next. Saito, I would tell him, please rest, take like 6 months off, rest, come back to cave, train again, and then I don't know who they're gonna put up against Kleber. I'm interested to know who they're gonna. If it's not Saito, I wonder. Like, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Like, I don't know who's at 145. I don't think that they're gonna put Ren against Kleber. That would be hilarious. That'd be Hagiwara would be interesting, but I think they're gonna try to do Hagiwara Ren.
Still too soon.
Oh, you think they could do then in that case Hagiwara versus Kleber?
I mean, do you want to watch? Hagiwara's a popular fighter. Do they want to watch him get murdered? I mean, Hagiwara's got the worst takedown defense outside of Ren Hiramoto.
Listen, you speak of popular, his fight with Suzuki has over like 500,000 views, I think, at this point.
Hagiwara is extremely popular. He's extremely popular.
And he bought a Lexus recently as well. He said that
considering that the Suzuki fight kind of sucked. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Well,
and he cherried. Remember, he cherried the main event of the first Rizin Trigger series. So yeah, Hajiwara's got it going on.
Smoker Jim's coming up. Smoker Jim's going to be the Brave doing the Brave Gym representation kind of thing for Rizin, especially for their Osaka shows. Oh, I'm definitely looking forward to that.
I think Haitian has something that he would like. I'm assuming it's he would like to say, and that is Kanehara should be the next opponent for Kleber Koike Erst.
I would not be opposed to that. That's an interesting fight. That's an interesting. I am all for that. Masanori, I mean, he destroyed Ashida in the last fight, so they both have wins. Not opposed to that at all. Anybody thoughts?
Kanehara's a good grappler, so it could be a fun fight. He's also a very good striker.
I think the grappling, I definitely would favor Kleber over.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying that he's like no slouch on the ground, so he should be able to defend himself better than most people.
He probably won't, if he knows that Kleber's gonna go for a flying triangle, he'll know what to do. He won't follow him like Mikuru did in the first fight.
Yeah.
So in the interest of time, we're gonna talk about the next two fights, which are two of the women's fights. And CJ, this will be all you. You're probably
I want to talk about this one too. After CJ.
Okay, Ayaka Hamazaki losing her first ever being finished at atom weight against Seika Izawa, undefeated still, by the way. Seika Izawa. Yes. And then I'm trying to find the graphic. Reina versus Siwoo Park, which Reina at Reina weight lost to Siwoo Park. Decision. CJ, your thoughts on both these fights?
Okay, so like I said, in the lead up to the fight, Izawa is a very talented grappler. She's got a lot of background in various grappling skills. And I thought that Ayaka Hamasaki's best her strengths were her physical strength and her striking. And Seika Izawa did a brilliant job of making sure none of those ever came into play. She was willing to do whatever it took to get the fight to the ground. I mean, she literally pulled guard. She just did whatever it took. She didn't care if she's on the bottom, she's on the top. Just as long as the fight was on the ground, she knew that was her best chance to win. And I love that type of fight IQ in a fighter where they know where their chance to win is and they do whatever they do to get to implement it, which is what she did. I will also say, I think those up kicks did a ton of damage to Hamasaki and really rocked Hamasaki. And I don't think Hamasaki recovered going into the second round. And I think that's also, side note, Hamasaki does have a little history of getting caught in triangles. As you remember the Ham Sohi fight, she like rode out the entire second round in a triangle attempt. And so Izawa must have seen that. But I think Izawa was trying to go for an armbar, but I think Izawa eventually realized I should just go for the TKO. It's going to be too much work to submit her. And I mean, you could not ask for a more flawless or perfect performance. Now there's going to be a rematch for the title on the line. It could be a completely different fight.
Sakakibara say these two are fighting for the title in the next show or next.
Well, I think Hamasaki said afterwards that she has a better future. She has a duty to defend the title against Izawa. I mean, you have to do it. I don't know how they don't do it. And the thing is, the second fight's interesting because it becomes a striking battle. What happens? Does Hamasaki make it a boxing match and refuse to grapple and win the rematch? So there's still questions to be answered. I was kind of joking with Shu that Izawa should just leave Rising now. She has nothing else to accomplish. She's beat the best fighter in Japan. She said her goal is to be the UFC champion. She's never going to be hotter than she is now. She should just go now, but that's not realistic. So she's going to fight. I think she'll fight Hamasaki again. If she wins the title, she'll probably defend it once or twice, and then I think she'll go stateside.
Well, would she fight at atomweight? Not atomweight. Strawweight in that case.
Well, there's always rumors about the UFC adding the atomweight division, but she does want to fight at strawweight, and she walks around at around like 53, 54 kilo, which is just literally the strawweight limit pretty much. But her brother is a personal trainer, so they're working on bulking her up. I mean, if you look at her, she looks like she barely has any muscle on her. She posts a video of her jumping, and she can barely jump 2 inches off the ground. She's like the most unathletic person ever. But I will say she has ridiculous grappling stamina. Like, she does not get tired grappling. And I mean, you just saw the Hamasaki fight. She was going for submission after submission after submission, always advancing position. And I think Oshima started a revolution with those up kicks in the Kana Asakura fight.
Oh, yeah.
Because one of the fun things about women's MMA is the women are just you tend to be so much more flexible with their legs that they're in a perfect like physical position, like when they're on the ground, to just jack people with up kicks. And I think we're going to see those more often. And
good.
We're going to transition to the Rena and the Siwoo Park fight. I thought Rena took the fight too quickly. She didn't really have time.
I can say something about the Hamasaki Dawa fight real quick. I think that when it comes down to that particular fight, I know I was picking Hamasaki because I thought this was just going to be a cakewalk. But when it comes down to how that fight was finished off, we did not see this coming. We just thought that Izawa was just going to be a footnote. But now she's got a future ahead of her. She's going to be potentially fighting in the States soon. And I think that in due time, Izawa is going to end up being a champion somewhere, whether it be in Japan and the US or elsewhere around the world.
I just want to also quickly say, comment from Jamie about Kleber. And this is the fight to make. Kota Miura versus Kleber. Just wanted to say that.
We should talk about, just a side note, Kota Miura is getting a lot of heat, got a lot of attention for this fight. Oh. And I think it worked well. I think the Japanese crowd's into it.
I'm glad. Going back to Rena Siwoo Park, CJ, what did you say? I saw people even saying that Rena may have won this fight. And
well, I mean, I watched it, and I clearly thought Siwoo Park won when I was watching it live, but I haven't watched on video again. But It seemed to me that Siwoo Park had a very clear strategy, which was to like briefly strike, clinch, briefly strike, clinch, keep Rena from moving. And Rena didn't have time to like form a game plan or anything. And I think she took the fight too quickly. And I think the big takeaway from that fight too now is I'm going to write about it later, but I think some people are kind of accusing Siwoo Park of being a dirty fighter now.
Oh, you're talking about the headbutt, right?
There's a moment where she headbutts Rena very obviously. And in her last fight with Seika Izawa, she threw an illegal kick. And in her kickboxing fight with Panchan Rina, she broke Panchan Rina's nose with a headbutt. And I think she landed like 3 or 4 other headbutts in that fight. And there's actually a moment in the fight with Rena where the referee comes over to the ring and like says like, stop the headbutts. So people are kind of accusing her of being a dirty fighter. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell at the angle, but I mean, it's like pretty right there in your face that she had her pushed in the corner and just like headbutted the shit out of her. It's what it looks like.
You know what the headbutt reminded me of? It reminded me of the Mayweather fight when he got the guy who fought. Remember that guy who headbutted Mayweather? And they like stopped the fight, and then once they restarted, Mayweather knocked him out as soon as like the guy was coming over like to shake his hand. That's what it kind of.
You mean the Ortiz fight, right?
Yes, Ortiz. Yeah, that's what the headbutt reminded me of.
Like it wasn't like the Panchan Rina headbutt was like very clearly like a stepping into a punch and my head hit you as I was coming in. Whereas the Rena fight seems much more like I'm just going to headbutt the shit out of you right now. Mm-hmm. So also, unfortunately, that's what people are kind of talking about. But that fight isn't getting a lot of attention.
It has like 96,000 views on YouTube. I looked at it.
It's not getting a lot of attention. I think people understand that Rena wasn't in the best shape for the fight, but she did it to get on the New Year's Eve card. I mean, the doctor even told her not to take the fight going into it. So unlike Kana Asakura, I don't think we see Siwoo Park become a star after this. And I think we're going to need some other performances. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Siwoo Park back down and deep.
Well, here's the thing. So I think they're going to bring Siwoo Park back because Rizin is obsessed with having the international fighters. And since she is technically from Korea, they can put the Korean flag next to her name and say, see, we have 4.
Yeah, but they messed up. They forgot to put the Korean flag next to her name. And
yes, they forgot to do that. They forgot to do that. They did yes, they fucked that up. Maybe they'll know for next time. Maybe.
But did you see that the Deep Jewels next event, all the atomweight fighters are fighting at 49 kilo?
Yes, of 49. Oh my god.
And on Jack's roundtable, my prediction for the 2022 was that in 2022, rising super atomweight division will be completely different landscape than it was in 2021. And I think it's already happened. I think Saudi Oshima and Seika Izawa are just the first of many who are going to come. Because let's be honest, Aya Kamasaki's 39 years old. Emi Fujino's 40. Miyu Yamamoto's like, 47 or something insane? Like,
she's close to 50, so to speak. And isn't Rena Kubota in her early 30s or mid-30s?
I think she is 30. So Rena's still young, but fight-wise, she's been fighting for 16 years. So she's got a lot of miles on her. But
basically, what you're saying is, as the division is going to change this year and possibly next year, it's time to phase out the old dinosaurs now.
Well, and don't feel sad about it because Ayaka Hamasaki said this is what she wants. Ayaka Hamasaki, in the lead up to the Fujino fight, expressed regret that a new generation wasn't emerging to take over. And I think now that a new generation is emerging, she can be at peace to retire when she wants to retire. She doesn't have to be like these other women that fought on for so long, waiting for someone to pass the baton to, and that person never came.
Well, here's you also bring up the interesting point, CJ. And when you say that it's definitely the shift, now are we talking like Japan only? Because or are you talking about like worldwide atom weights?
I think it's Japan only at the moment because let's call it the rising effect. I mean, deep jewels and deep events are very different ever since rising has happened. And when you talk to these girls, like you talk to Miki Matono, you talk to Seika Izawa, you talk to them, Saudi Oshima. 10 years ago, you talk to a girl, like, what's your dream? Like, I want to go fight abroad. I want to fight in the UFC. Now you talk to these girls, and it's like, what do you want to do? I want to fight in rising. I want to fight in rising. I want to fight in rising. It's all they're saying. And there's no coincidence that they're all like Japan used to be known for the strawweight division. Strawweight division doesn't exist anymore. All those girls dropped down to 48 and 49 kilo. No coincidence that Rising is the only promotion that has that division. So I think as with it being on Fuji TV and with superstars like Rena and Ayaka Hamasaki, more women are exposed to it because Japan, other people understand this, Japan produces super dominant women's wrestlers and women's judo players. If you look at like the Olympic gold medals for women's wrestling, I think Japan has more than half of them. Like at the last Olympics, I think they won almost every single women's weight class gold medal in wrestling.
Well,
so they're all about wrestling.
Except for the one that Tamara Mensah Stark won. I think that was probably the only gold medal they didn't get.
Oh, and it's the same with judo. So, I mean, they have this giant pool of potential MMA talent. And with Seika Izawa, Saori Oshima, and Kana Watanabe, you're starting to see these high-level judo and wrestler players start to make the transition. And hopefully it's just the beginning.
Well, here's the other thing when it comes to that. So let's just say.
Oh, and I'll also say, in Deep Jewels, you have Hanako Sawa, who is clearly the highest level wrestler to make the transition. And I only say that because Miyu Yamamoto wrestled before wrestling was in the Olympics for women. But Miyu Yamamoto is probably the highest level wrestler to ever wrestle in MMA. But she was so popular in Japan and her sister, you have to think they're the reason, or a huge part of the reason, that women's wrestling is even in the Olympics. And so it's kind of crazy.
My big question is once the restrictions are lifted, do you think that Rising's just going to focus? We'll just focus on Japanese atom weights, or do you think we'll see them?
That's a good question you have. That's a great question, because going into this fight, it was like a Mad Lib. You could figure it out. Their atom weight division wasn't a division. What it was they had 3 stars, and they would fly talent over from abroad to fight them. I mean, I think in 2018 or 19, only one Japanese versus Japanese MMA fight happened in the women's division, and it was like Miyu Yamamoto versus somebody, I can't remember who. And they love doing that, but I think what the pandemic has forced them to do, obviously, is create a division, because they can no longer rely on other countries or foreign fighters or anything. And what Deep Jewels has done is Deep Jewels has produced an awesome atomweight division. And it's kind of like when the UFC just brought over the entire strawweight division from Invicta. I would almost like to see Rising do that.
I think you basically at this point can say that, like, if someone's fighting Deep Jewels at super atomweight, they are eligible for Rising. I think that's really what you can say at this point.
The day that Nisei and Ida Koga fought in Rising means that any Deep Jewels fighter is a potential Rising fighter.
So that means we're gonna get Manhoof in Rising.
Hey, I mean,
when she wins that tournament,
she wouldn't be the oldest girl there.
Yeah, that's gotta be like, that should be Ayaka's final fight. Her versus Manhoof. I don't think they've ever fought, as far as I know.
I think they have. I think Ayaka fucked her up.
Never mind. I think.
No, let me check. I think they did fight.
What about Ayaka versus Satoko Shinasi? Or would that fight just be too much?
Satoko Shinasi is way too small. Satoko Shinasi can literally fight at 99 pounds. Like, she is the original microweight, and she's way too small. Yeah.
So, but I think regardless, like you said, CJ, we're seeing.
Oh wait, she's never fought her. I must be confused. She beat up Sugi Rock. I was thinking of Sugi Rock.
Okay. Hey, so
you're referring to Yasuko Tamada, the same one that lost to Michelle Watterson in her lone U.S. appearance?
I am not, but Sugi Rock also lost to Michelle Watterson.
Oh, of course.
Yes. So that could be Ayaka's final fight in New Year's, after Manhoof wins the tournaments, which is my prediction. But listen, Ayaka Izawa's next for a title. If they book that, I'm picking Izawa to win that. I saw nothing that Ayaka could do this fight.
Correction, she did not lose to Michelle Watterson. She lost to Jessica Penne. Before I get like a giant message saying I'm an idiot, I will correct myself.
Jessica Penne.
Yeah.
Oh, Jamie has a good question. Do we see another atomweight Grand Prix this year? I think that's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they after this one.
I think we see the very exciting, I think we're going to see a flyweight Grand Prix in Deep, Jules. They've already talked about it, and the division is completely stacked. You're going to see Kate Lotus, the very popular fitness model fighter. You're going to see one of my personal favorites, Nirvana, who works at the Muscle Girls bar, who used to train with Kawajiri. But you're also going to see Hanako Sawa, the very high-level wrestler. You're going to see rising vet Shizuka Sugiyama take part. And you're going to see Yukari Nabe, who's also a very high-level fighter who used to fight in Road FC. And then you're going to see, hopefully, if the gods are right, Rin Nakai comes over. She retweeted a Deep thing the other day, so we have hope that maybe she's opened that door again.
Can she make 125?
Absolutely, yeah. She can make 115.
Oh, she looks heavier.
She fought Murata Kaneko at 115, didn't she? In Rising.
115, or it was like maybe.
I think it was supposed to be 115, but it ended up being a catch weight of some type. But she should, by all accounts, be able to make 115.
Also, tangentially related to Sugiyama. Looking forward to that Keitaro return as well.
Exactly, grappling match.
Tag team thing.
Gotta love Keitaro.
I gotta love Deep. No, listen, Deep is like my favorite. I wish I could watch their shows live because they make some of the most interesting fights. Like,
first off, how happy must Deep be? Like every video you see Terumi, there's like this woman in like a red jacket always hugging people because it's like, oh, every Deep fighter that went to Rising this year kicked ass. I mean, Ougikubo became the champion. Saudi Oshima beat Kana Sakura. You got Seika Izawa beating. These are all people that Deep scouted, all people they found, and they're all just kicking ass.
Oh yeah, just what's the name? The promoter's name? Shigeru Sakai.
Oh, Sayaki.
He's gotta be like so happy. Probably it increases their attendance as well of their shows.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely happy for Deep that they're getting all this.
I think they've benefited the most from the pandemic and the Rising relationship.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, definitely. Absolutely. Definitely. You want to talk about another Deep fighter who also kicked ass as well? Koji Takeda beating Bay Noah.
Am I being a negative Nancy if my one takeaway from this fight was Bay Noah looked great?
He looked good. Even if he looked good, he knocked down Takeda. And I can't remember the last time Takeda's been knocked down. I've seen a lot of his fights, not all of them, but I've seen a lot of them. He's a very
Takeda, by all accounts, should have absolutely crushed Bay Noah. And Bay Noah was one punch away from winning the fight.
I also got to give credit to Takeda. He actually managed to look just as dark as Bay Noah.
Don't even start. Dude spends way too much time on the tanning bed. Fuck you.
Also, we got to talk about this. So this is a consistent thing throughout the fights. And CJ, we were talking about this. I think it was you and I who were talking about this, that like the referees were like out to lunch. Like,
oh, the referees sucked.
Like every finish.
I've never been a big, I know people like him, but I've never been a big Wada fan. I think he's too involved in the fights. And like in the Miura fight, I'm pretty sure he missed Yushin going unconscious at one point.
I rewatched the fight today. If Yushin was not out, he was pretending to be asleep. I have no idea what it was.
And then Miura let go of the submission because he thought he was unconscious.
Yes.
It's like, okay, Wada is clearly not paying attention. And then in this fight, it's like, what referee, when someone's tapping out to a submission, you don't jump on the guy that's tapping out. You jump on the guy that's applying the submission. You get the guy to stop because, I mean, after the fight, Benoa's arm was in a sling. And I'm like, could that have been avoided if the ref had stopped the wrong person? You stopped the right person.
I don't know what the referees, they're normally on their A game, usually for the most part. But like, the referees were like, it was like they all went to the Herb Dean or Mario Yamazaki or Steve Mazzagai's school of refereeing, like all of them, like for all the finishes. It was
more Josh Rosenthal's in the world.
Their shields, and there's no way they can get help.
JayWolf, what did you think about Bay Noah? Do you think he looked great in this fight despite the loss?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely saw that he grew from that fight. Koji taught him a good grappling lesson again. You can see with the suplexes, how many suplexes he hit, 2 or 3 in that one. And he was able to get back to his feet several times. So it was a good, fun fight. But, I didn't get to talk about the girls' fights. You guys were.
I thought you did. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to talk about how Sika Izawa is one of the breakout stars of the event. Like, I'm glad CJ was talking her up and had those great articles about her and everything. And I love how you guys brought it up that it was the up kicks, the superior rule set up kicks. How awesome was it? That's what got her that win over Hamasaki, because you guys are absolutely right. She did not recover from those up kicks. And then the CJ brought up as well about the Oshima fight that she started it with the up kicks. I mean, that just, and one of the GOAT Twitter accounts, Grabaka Hitman Kaposa, he tweeted out about how Izawa got Hamasaki with those up kicks and how it was part of what a great thing about the superior rule set of Epic Rising. I loved it. And then to get back on, and then the Reina fight, I thought Reina was raw. I thought she did enough to win that fight, but that's okay. So they can rematch her, bring her back or whatever. So
Reina will come back. They'll definitely bring her back if she doesn't retire.
Yeah, I mean,
she said she's motivated. She's not retiring.
Good.
Oh, okay, good. Finally, thank God.
She's one of the best, one of the top of Japanese women's MMA for sure. So okay, now get back on this one.
But
about
can I also add? I can talk about this forever. What's interesting about Seika Izawa is that she's so freaking smart. She's going to graduate school at one of the top universities in Japan, and so like you just see how like her fight IQ and how her intelligence just played into that strategy. But yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
Jay, tell us about what you.
I was going to say she recognized those up kicks that hurt Hamasaki, and she went after. You saw her go after right after those up kicks, and she kept going after it. So, dude, you're absolutely right, CJ. Her fight IQ was for only being her fifth fight. Dude, her fight IQ is excellent, and that doesn't surprise me that you're saying she's going to a great school and everything, and that just doesn't surprise me. That shows that she is a really intelligent fighter. I love it how she used those up kicks as a superior rule set to beat Hamasaki, and that's why that whole Shibatar fiasco just pisses me off, because it takes away from star making performances like Izawa. But I'm really happy with some of the fans' responses, because they have been bringing up Izawa and Hiramoto's GP finals run. That it was a great night for Rizin as well. So, I mean, but I just love the Izawa. I can't wait to see her fight again. I'm hoping you guys are right and they book her for a rematch, or you know me, I love the Grand Prix. Throw them in a Grand Prix. Do the rematch in the Grand Prix. Have the title on the line, everything, and have that be the first match of the Grand Prix. So.
But go ahead about Takeda Beinoa.
Oh, it was a good fight. Beinoa he showed great growth, I would say. Takeda still beat him, but Beinoa, CJ is absolutely correct. He showed great, growth, because Beinoa is a kickboxing champion crossover fighter, and he shows great potential. I just can't wait to see him again. And he's one of my favorite Rizin fighters. But he didn't rep America this time. He usually has the American flag as rep, and he was repping Japan this time. So
it's basically a technical error that caused that to happen.
Oh, okay.
But I gotta agree with you. I gotta agree with all y'all on this when it comes down to the Beinoa fight against Takeda. Takeda just simply dominated Beinoa. Beinoa, despite the fact that he was as energetic as he can be, he was just getting completely rocked half the damn time. I really do think that, he's going to have his rough patches, but he is also going to continue to fight in MMA for Rizin because he has that crossover appeal, despite the fact that he got forced into a submission and lost via armbar. As far as Takeda's extra crispy ass goes, I don't know. I just don't think. I mean, it's like the same thing when it comes down to all the other lightweight scenarios. Satoshi going to Rizin. You got Johnny Case and Damian Brown both wanting back in the promotion. But you also got a bludgeoning Japanese scene that just wants to get recognized. And I think that Koji needs to go back to deep and defend his lightweight belt in order for that to be recognized.
Any news on that, CJ? Actually, Takeda. Wait, I thought he lost the title. Did he, or is he still champion?
Gonna have to double check.
I thought he wasn't. Oh wait, no, he is because Yachi fought him. Yachi fought him because he was on the whole.
Yes.
Listen, I'll tell you the truth. I think Takeda, if Johnny Case can't make it to Japan, I think Takeda versus Satoshi is a very interesting fight. Particularly on the, I think so.
Is that the fact that you want to see Yachi defeat all the domestic lightweight champions in Japan?
Yeah, but that's past news.
It's over now. They ruined it.
Yeah, it's done. It's dead as a doornail. Takeda, that Takeda Satoshi is an interesting fight from a stylistic perspective because I do think Takeda could potentially knock out Satoshi. Ground wise, I'd be interested to see what happens because Takeda is a strong wrestler, and I wonder if he would actually dare try to wrestle against Satoshi. That's a fight. I'm really interested in that fight from a stylistic point of view. Beinoa, listen, if you put him against Yachi, I'm happy with that because that's probably an exciting fight, and Beinoa could realistically win that. But the problem is with Beinoa is that if you put him against a grappler like a Takeda or somebody who's just a wizard on the ground, they're gonna probably beat them. But listen, he can still punch you and knock you out, like when we saw with Lukaku.
Yeah, but stop matching up with these grappling first guys. Match them up with a striker first. Well,
Yachi is kind of like he could kind of be like that, unless you want to do like him versus Gomi, Beinoa versus Gomi.
that might end bad for Gomi
at
this stage of his career.
And you know what? Going back to Koji Takeda real quick. The last time he defended that deep lightweight title was against Jiri Ohara in the second bout back in December 2019. Otherwise, he hadn't had a reasonable bout since when he defeated Satoru Kitaoka in October 2018.
And Jiri Ohara just coming off a win as well. Maybe you guys, maybe they do that rematch. Takeda and Ohara for a rematch. How's the first fight?
What is it at this point?
How many times have they fought? Like a million times?
They fought each other I think they even fought each other in deep
they
back to back.
Each other three times.
Won every one. I don't think Rise is interested in that. I hope they're not interested in that.
Hey, Arlovsky and Sylvia fought each other 5 times. Remember?
Oh, that was heavyweight. That was like when there was no heavyweights, and all the heavyweights were awful. So
and also some hilarious. How does my pee taste moments? So.
I mean, I don't know what Beinoa is going to be doing with Rise as well. If he's going to be fighting for them,
Why not? I thought he was. I thought he was.
Is he? Oh, I didn't hear him. Maybe he'll be on the mixed card, the Takaru Tension card.
Because he's still there. He's still the current Rise champion, correct?
Yeah. Well, actually, it's interesting you bring it up also as well. With now Rise and Glory doing their whole thing, he actually might have more opponents now for his division because. I was trying to think like who in Glory. Glory is like mostly heavyweights and big guys. Who the fuck?
Isn't Glory like a shell of what it used to be? Like
yes, because they don't do events in the U.S. for the time being, and they had to stick to doing events in the Netherlands.
Yeah, when Rise announced, I was just like, Glory? Like, who fights for Glory these days?
All I know is Batter Hari.
Yeah, Batter Hari and like a couple heavyweights that are like fossils at this point.
Yeah, Rico Verhoeven, the best heavyweight right now in kickboxing.
And then all their fighters leave to go to UFC. Anyway, so it's like
what? Come to think of it, y'all mentioned the fact that Beinoa is currently still the Rise champion. Yeah. Maybe if he ends up fighting for Glory, considering the fact that they still air some of their events here in the States to their standalone service. Maybe this will get Beinoa some popularity,
It might. Cool. It might, but I think it definitely gives him more opportunity for opponents at that weight class, which is like virtually possible in Japan.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was showing, and if he's still going to do crossover, which he is, he's going to be doing both, right? He showed great stand-up ability, because Takeda is an excellent wrestler. You saw him busting those suplexes out and everything, but Beinoa was able to get back to his feet almost. Each grappling exchange where he would get taken down, he would eventually get back to his feet, and that's a really good important quality to have of a crossover fighter. That was one of the things where Crow Cop, he had excellent takedown defense as well, right? And I mean that's a key feature of a successful crossover fighter is good takedown defense and stand-up ability, and Beinoa I think really has showcased that. and it's time to give him a fighter that is not a grappling heavy fighter. I want to see him versus a striking mixed martial arts as well. I want to see some action from him.
Oh, the other one is the Tokeshi, Koei Tokeshi, who fought Jiri Ohara a few months ago. Like completely a grappler, not grappler, striker as well. So if you want to do that as well, that's potentially.
I like it. I like it.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think he might. I want to see if he will be putting that Taku retention card, just because if they're gonna be like really doing like a mixed type of card with like people from everywhere. He's a name I would think that they would definitely try to go after. That's my opinion, or at least they should. We gotta talk about the best fight of all time. Shrek Sakine versus Shibisai and CJ. You cursed this fight from the moment you said that Shibisai is right now the top heavyweight in Japan. And then this happens.
First off, this fight the moment you said that. This fight makes Sidario look awful. Like, you lost to this guy that has the stamina to last like 2 minutes. And like, it looks like by all effect that he knocked out Sakine, but Sakine just refused to go down. I mean, it was almost comical. The crowd was laughing when Sakine was like yelling. When he German suplexed him to the ground. It was like,
when he would strike, he would like go, ugh, ugh, and then he was screaming Shibisai, Shibisai, like a pro,
screaming his name.
I mean,
I was laughing so much.
With the way that Sakine was knocking out Shibisai in that type of fury, maybe you could probably knock out Shibisai in the same way, even though you weigh 170 pounds.
Is that like a TKO to exhaustion? I mean, like Sakine wasn't even like hurting him. It was just like Shibisai was just like,
that
was a tired.
I was thinking about that. You remember the Henan Barao Uriah Faber fight where Uriah was just like hitting Faber's shoulders?
That was a terrible stoppage.
That was one of the worst stoppages of all time. And I was, I thought back then, I was like, yes, like in that case, yes, but in this case, Shibisai was doing nothing. He was
literally just laying there like a corpse, just like
I think those punches did rock him on the ground because he was kind of like falling, like his head was like kind of like on the ground, and Wada was screaming like whatever, defend yourself, and then action, and then obviously nothing was coming from Shibisai, so he had to stop the fight because he was in bad position. He wasn't getting out. He was getting hit by a heavyweight.
He saved the audience because this fight was a hot mess.
Listen, I would have, if that fight went the full 3, I would have no problem if it did. I was all in this fight as soon as that suplex happened, and somehow even Shrek Sakine fucked it up. Like
Sakine's eye was so fucked up afterwards too. Like he looked like he was falling apart.
Listen, Shakine's on a streak now, a 3-fight winning streak, all finishes.
Also,
48 years old, bonsai jiu-jitsu. This guy's making
Sidario's brother. You see Sidario's brother come up? They announced that his brother was joining Rizin.
Yes.
We've seen him, and we've seen Tiger Mask's son looking for a fight in Rizin. We have to mention that as well.
My wife was laughing because Sidario's brother either doesn't speak Japanese very well or was like incredibly nervous to be up there.
I'm pretty sure it was the latter because
he was talking like a child.
Good.
He was like,
He seemed pretty nervous.
Yeah, he looked incredibly nervous. He needs some of that sweet reefer that got kicked him out of sumo. Calm those nerves.
But if you think about this guy for 1 second, when it comes down to what's next after this fight, you have to realize all the heavyweight talent are outside of Japan. I mean, hell.
How dare you? Sakine and Megaton.
I mean, for example.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Continue with my fucking thought, please.
Sorry,
Thank you. Anyways, what I was trying to say is that all the heavyweight talents are outside of Japan. Hell, Lord Lane St. Ilme is in Italy. I mean, you just had, I think, Rocky Martinez. He was supposedly flying out to Japan. I guess now he's back in Guam. But still, though, we mentioned Tsuyoshi Sudario's twin brother And now we see that Sekine beat up the top-ranked Japanese heavyweight. If there's no foreign heavyweights coming around the pike trying to fight for Rizin down the line, could we potentially see Sekine beat up Tsuyoshi Sudario's baby brother, or potentially beat up Sudario?
I think
I want Sudario versus Sudario. I
Well,
want them to
make
wear
his
the same
mother
trunks,
watch. Put his
wear
mother
the
in
same
front row.
trunks and the same glove colors, so nobody has any idea what's going on.
I think we talked about this before, that Sekine versus Cesaro is a fight to make, continue on the pro wrestling thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think Sekine could actually beat Cesaro. You know,
I think Sudario
Maybe.
knocks him out pretty quickly.
Wait, how old is Sekine again? How old is Shrek?
48. 48.
How old's Olagun again? Was Olagun 48 or 49?
55.
Disputed.
disputed age. Both
Well,
ages.
would you want to match up Shrek and Olagun? Do you
No,
think that'd be a good one?
no, I think that ends bad for Oligan. I really do.
Okay.
No,
Well,
that
because they were
ends bad
older.
for that ends
Can we just
bad
talk about the
for
fact that
every-
Sekine is a police officer?
And he's still-
Like, how nuts is- he was a police officer.
Yeah, so because at the beginning of his career, he had to wear a mask. They couldn't say him by name because, like, apparently you can't.
As if the mask hid who he was.
Who's this big, large man who's short and is also a police officer, so he can't reveal his identity? I don't know. By the way, I have a translation of what he said after. He
I have
said,
3 things I want to say. I love pro wrestling.
he also said, Rizin is my swamp now.
Nice Shrek reference.
I feel
My
bad.
wife likes him because he has the same type of dog that we do.
I'm like, it's like, I mean, like, yeah, I think Shrek Sudario is like the one fight you can make. Christian, I have to disagree with you that the best, I guess the only, I won't say the best heavyweights, but there's some heavyweights that are in deep. We got Ryo Sakai, Mizuguchi. CJ, you probably know a lot more than,
I mean, there are heavyweights, but to call them like legitimate contenders.
yeah, that's I mean, like, obviously they're not.
Stretch. But I'm more interested in the Sudario drama. I'm all about the entertainment value. Sudario said he doesn't want his brother to fight in MMA, so it's kind of interesting that his brother's doing it anyway.
Do they have are they at odds with each other? Are they like?
I mean, it seems to be at least a little bit because he didn't want him to do it, and then so I was like, does that mean he's gonna be training with somebody else? Is this like a weird German experiment where we have 2 twins, and each has a different training camp, and we have to see who does better?
Something we could see them fight potentially. Maybe.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see. But while the COVID restrictions are still going, as soon as those COVID restrictions lift, have Sakaki Bar work his magic again and find bring in like a Russian or a where do you find Jiri from? Czech Republic. I mean, you know,
isn't that Brazilian dude they brought in like a Bellator champion or a PFL champion now?
Oh yeah, that's right. Exactly. Thank you, CJ. That's another one. Yeah, so Sakagi Bar-san can work his magic and he can bring in some outside heavyweights from like Russia or wherever once these COVID restrictions lift. So don't you guys worry, there'll be plenty of them. But for right now,
I have to say though, I'm on the Shrek train.
Yeah, totally. Me too. That was a great fight.
I am on the Shrek train. I am excited for whatever next play he's gonna have. For somebody who went to ADCC, might be the worst you've ever seen.
That thing even says like they list him as a grappler and a jiu-jitsu champion. That's like absolutely hilarious.
And if you actually go on YouTube and watch him against like high-level grapplers like Keenan Cornelius, he gets dominated by all of them. He gets swept. Yeah. He's exhausted by like the first minute. You can't submit him though. Like he's impossible to submit because he's so large that like you can't even get your hands around his neck, or like you can't even like get your legs around him because he's just so. He's the weirdest by proportions. He's so short.
So he's like Boxcar Homer. He just lets his opponents get exhausted and then beats them in the end.
Yeah, his body proportions, like he's so stocky on top, and his legs are so short, but they're wide. And like this guy should have like there should be no advantage in a fight for him at all. And
he should live under a bridge and bother people,
or in a swamp.
Yeah.
I mean, so what were people happy with the win in the audience, CJ? Was it kind of like us, was it, or were people just?
I don't think people were really. I don't think people were that invested in the fight, to be honest.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm disappointed.
I mean, it's not as good. It wasn't as bad as the Great Oda Exodus, where like half the audience would have to go buy food and go to the bathroom.
Yeah, and they missed out too. Oda had one of the best finishes of the night.
I still think that fight sucked, though. I still think.
Did they miss out?
Yes, because Oda finished him with a soccer kick and then stomped a mud hole in his ass and walked it clean. That was great. I loved it for on New Year's Eve.
Stone Cold Austin line.
Fuck yeah, heck yeah, brother. Actually, I think it's JR's line.
But talk about fights that suck, though. I hate to say this fight sucked. Hagiwara.
Oh yeah, completely sucked. But I mean, Hagiwara is so popular. I think people were just happy to see him win with his perpetually injured eye that seems to never recover. But yeah, I mean, did we expect anything else? Hagiwara has shown that he has, if your grappling skill is ranked on a scale of 1 to 10, he has a 0.5, and it's enough to beat kickboxers that have no takedown defense.
I just thought this fight would be a lot more exciting, a lot more striking. I thought it was going to be a brawl, never go down the first round. And
I thought it was just going to be Ren Hitomoto Hagiwara 2, and it just ended up being that without the finish. So,
yeah, and without the excitement. JayWolf, I know you're looking forward to this fight. I mean, do you have any positive things to say about it?
Yeah, I mean, Hagiwara got the W, so he's still winning. I mean, Hagiwara was the one that cherried the Rizin Trigger event and with a soccer kick finish. And so maybe he was, that got all his violence out of him. So this one, he was just trying to get the decision win. So, but he still got the W. And he's one of their rising stars. I mean, I can't wait to see him fight again. Like I said, that Rizin Trigger event was probably that was an event of the year candidate, and he was responsible for cherrying that event with a sensational finish.
What?
So
that Trigger show sucked.
What? Oh my God! No, you did not just say that. You're just
Trigger
saying
show,
that because
was one of the weaker cards of the year. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about action and violence wise. That was one of the best cards of the year. That had
Trigger card have like no finishes essentially.
No, you're thinking of a different card, brother. The Trigger event.
I think you're thinking of not the Okinawa card. Maybe the show. Was it the Osaka card? I think. Are you thinking of the Osaka?
No, oh my God.
Because Trigger was in Kobe, and then the whatever the one was that had Kintaro winning was losing. Excuse me, against not in a way was the one that had like no finishes except for maybe I think the first or second fight. I think.
Yeah, that's the one you're thinking of, CJ, because the Trigger event was just spectacularly violent. Had the first stomp KO, the Shinataro first stomp KO, the new era.
All right, you're right. The Trigger show is awesome. I was mistaken. I was thinking.
Yeah.
Was I thinking of Riding 29? Was Riding 29 the shitty one?
I think it was 29. Whatever the one was that was in Osaka, because I think we were talking about that show. We were like,
yeah, it was Rising 29 that absolutely like sucked a dick. That show was terrible.
Okay, yeah. So the Trigger event was awesome, and Hagiwara was responsible for helping make it awesome because he cherried that event, and now he just got another W here after a short, quick turnaround. So I mean, even though it was, it wasn't action packed as it normally was. Remember, it was a quick turnaround bout. You just adding more star power to this card, and he did get the W at the end of the day. So he's still got that momentum going. So I can't wait to see him fight again. I'm telling you, he's one of their stars, up and comers, and he's from Drew. He's from one of your favorite gyms. He's one of the smoker guys.
Yeah. I know. Jay Chris, I know. I probably the same thoughts as me. This fight was probably not as exciting as for you. I'm guessing.
It was more like a meh fight. But when it comes down to how it's turned out, at least Hagiwara got the win.
Yeah.
As far as what's going to happen next, I think it's just going to be mid-card hell for him, even though he's pretty popular. So he might get boosted up to, potentially late mid-card, big-time fight status.
Yeah.
Depending on the fan popularity. As far as Hiroaki Suzuki goes, it's back to kickboxing, brother. You just weren't able to handle it.
Well, he'll be at the Bonsai Gym teaching Satoshi and Clever all that stuff. So heck, maybe they'll put him in a kickboxing fight.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, it'd be an interesting fight more than Hagiwara. I think Hiramoto versus Suzuki would be a more interesting fight.
Yeah.
As in Hiramoto versus Hiroaki Suzuki.
Yes, I think that's it because they're both strikers. You don't have to worry about the grappling at all. I assume. I'm assuming that
you say that. Watch it turn into a jiu-jitsu match.
It turns into the daily MVP.
Yes, exactly.
Any thoughts, CJ, on Hagiwara or Suzuki? That you think Hagiwara?
Not especially.
JayWolf, how
It
about
happened.
you? Sorry.
It happened.
What about the future fights?
Well, Hagiwara is kind of an interesting character, right? Because he's very popular, so you want to keep him around. But the problem is that, I mean, Mikuru kind of showed that his grappling really sucks.
Yeah.
And so he needs to make some changes to his training because, I mean, Mikuru wasn't even like shooting; he was just kind of pushing him over. And I was like, I feel like Hagiwara needs to change up his training and really concentrate on his takedown defense. And if he has takedown defense, he'll be a very good fighter.
So I actually looked up Smoker Gym because I was like, what do they offer at Smoker Gym? They offer straight MMA classes and
weed,
kids, and kids like wrestling. I think almost every gym in Japan has like kids wrestling or something.
That's how they make their money.
I have no idea how the kids wrestling stuff goes on there. Don't know who they.
Well, I mean, it's kids wrestling, so it's probably just like kids come there and work out and like play games.
But like they don't offer like straight jiu-jitsu. They don't offer straight boxing or kickboxing. They don't offer straight whatever. It's just like MMA or kids wrestling. I'm really curious to know how that gym is run. I really
all those gyms make their money by the kids wrestling programs.
Well, and also in the case of Smoker Gym, probably selling weed as well.
Yeah, and hip hop CDs.
Listen, I'm happy Hagiwara got the win. I think he's a very interesting personality. He definitely sticks out among all the a lot of the other fighters. It definitely was not. It was his worst win, I guess you could say, or his least exciting win. I would have to say, unfortunately, in his rising career. I didn't see the Mikuru fight, so I can't speak on that. But according to you, CJ, it was a piece of shit fight, right?
Yeah, it's boring.
What was an exciting fight, though, was this. Cozy and Yaman. This fight was awesome. CJ, what was the atmosphere?
I think this was the fight during the preview show where I got forced off of Rin Sukiyama, a.k.a. Yaman, versus Koji Tanaka, a.k.a. Cozy.
CJ, what was the audience atmosphere like for this fight?
It was awesome. And this fight was awesome because the one concern going into the fight was that Yaman could get tired because he's so aggressive and he just throws straight bombs. And Koji's still got a hell of a chin. I mean, Koji ate some shots in this fight, but this fight was just back and forth, nonstop action. It was nuts, and I was happy to see Yaman win. I mean, he's super active, and this is the type of win that pushes him over and helps make him into a star.
Also, we got to count 2 fouls by Koji in the first round.
Almost an immediate headbutt. Almost immediately.
And the audience, I heard the audience laugh. I heard the audience actually laugh because they're like, part of the course for a Koji fight. And then a low blow. That actually worried me a lot more, that low blow. I was like, oh, that looked really bad, that low blow. I thought they were going. I was worried, oh, God, no contest.
So does that make it 5 fights in a row that Koji's thrown a headbutt?
Yes. I think he does. He's got to be so cognizant at this point that he almost does it on purpose. There's no way. Siwoo Park, maybe it's by accident or she's too excited or whatever. Koji is doing this all on fucking purpose. He is. I don't care what anybody says. What do you think about the way that this was judged? Where one judge said it was a draw.
I thought it was a clear Yaman win. I mean, Koji had his moments, but I thought that Yaman was always putting the pressure on, always attacking, and I thought generally landing the better punches. Now, as the fight went on, Koji did land some nice combos, but I didn't think those were enough to undo what Yaman had already done.
That third round, I think it was you could if it was unified rules or whatever, you could say it was even. I think because near the end when they were just like punching each other. And I didn't even think. You know what the funny thing is, they barely kicked each other in this entire fight. It was almost like
that was the prediction going into it. People that knew kickboxing were like, "Oh, these are just going to be 2 guys just punching each other in the face nonstop.
JayWolf, what did you think about this fight?
I thought it was one of the fights of the night. It was action. The Jay kick bout really brought the action, and it was just like CJ was saying, it's back and forth. I mean, it was just a total slugfest, and it was just this action packed. I was having a great time watching it, and I was really happy for the Jay kick fans that were tuning in because they obviously they would have loved it as well, and they was happy to see their guys represent and bring the action on the big New Year's Eve card. So I loved it, and you know what? I remembered Yaman from a Rise event. That's where he's from, right? Is Rise, and yes. I remember seeing him on a Rise event earlier in the year where he also brought the action, and you remembered him because of his name, Yaman. So the guy's a good action fighter, and he really proved himself on New Year's Eve this year, and it was quite a treat, and I was really happy with it.
Hey, Chris.
Oh, I thought it was, well, I wasn't really paying attention, but I did realize that because of Yaman Sugiyama winning this fight, Koji's little arc that he had, I mean, Koji's story arc pretty much got screwed over. I mean, because if you think about it, this fight ended on a majority decision. And in the majority of the fight, Koji was just getting shipwrecked. So pretty much, Koji was pretty much, damn it, what the fuck am I saying? Koji was basically being treated like shit during this fight. He was pretty much dominated the majority of the fight. He barely got any chances to just go into this fight and treat it like it was his own. That's why he lost via majority decision. And as far as the future goes for either of these men, you know, I think Koji will only be brought in for the big time numbered events in Saitama and Tokyo. I think Yaman, if he ain't affiliated with Rise, he would do well on a future Landmark show or a future Triggered show.
We got a comment of our good friend Stuart Fulton, commentator for Rise, works in Pancreas as well, but also most importantly, one of the half of the commentators for Pro Wrestling Noah. He says, when you look at Yaman's backstory, it's hard not to root for him. Looking forward to seeing him in Rise World Series this year. So actually I want to ask about that. So CJ, after the fight, he said that, you know, I grew up with I think he said his father was in jail, sounded like just like kind of like a crappy like upbringing and all that stuff. Like, well, what did you think when he was like talking about like his backstory, like from coming from there to here to Rizin?
That's the kind of stuff that Japanese fighters and fans get behind, because you kind of saw it with the Ougikubo arc. They love like the story. Like in Japan and the UFC, sometimes you feel like they're just like pushing the brand. They don't care about the stories of the fighters, but it's almost the opposite in Japan. And the Rising Confession videos really released that. And Rise as well. I mean, Rise creates awesome YouTube content. And I think they do it through Abima, which is one of the streaming services. And so Rise also has a really high production value. And you can just see the support these guys get. I mean, when this fight was announced, before this fight was announced, I know all the Jay Kick fans were hoping that Koji's opponent was either going to be Taiga or Yaman. And they wanted Yaman because they knew if it was Yaman, it was going to be a super exciting fight because he always brings it. And it was kind of fun too. When you went on Twitter during the event, you saw all the Rising fighters cheering for Yaman. I mean, personal favorite of mine, you saw Erika Kamimura cheering for him. And so just a side tangent. I feel like for women's kickboxing to do well in Rising, they need someone like Erika Kamimura, who doesn't fight anymore. But talking about the crazy content that Rise creates, do you guys watch any of the Rise YouTube stuff?
I see the VCRs and the shows, and sometimes I'll watch like kind of in the background just because I could pick up every other word. Unfortunately, I'm not as into the Rise stuff as I should.
Oh, you don't have time. You watch so much stuff. I understand. But I was just laughing because, I mean, side note, Erika Kamimura's like student fought and lost, and there was just like a video of her berating her backstage. It was like, do you want to win? Do you want to be a champion? And like hitting her in the stomach. And I was like, Rise has some crazy people, and it's clearly, I think Rise overtook K1 a couple years ago in Japan. I mean, K1's obviously got Takeru, but I think just general talent wise, I think Rise kind of overtook them. And fighters like Yaman, I hope to see more of them in the future.
Absolutely. I don't know, like the weight division though. I mean, no attention leaving, and I don't know like what Rise is going to plan to do with this whole division of kickboxing at this level now that tension's gone. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't know. I'm not as deep into the kickboxing, and so I'm
historically though, it's going to be around because I mean, even back in Dream and Pride, they'd always have kickboxers. They got to fill out the cards, and kickboxing provides super exciting fights. There's a lot of exciting fighters in Japan. There's a big kickboxing scene. The Rising partnership seems to work and benefit both. So I expect to see it going in the future. I mean, even look at Beinoa. I mean, he may not be the best kickboxer in the world, but I don't think Crow Cop was the best kickboxer in the world. But their style was better for MMA than like a pure kickboxer style. And so we might see some good results from that as well.
I'm trying to think now. Actually, now I remember the Glory and Rise thing. Does Glory even have like a 125? I don't know what weight class were they?
I'm so confused about that deal because it seems like Rise recently is concentrating a lot on like the lower divisions and their women's division, which Glory doesn't seem to have anything that complements those divisions.
They don't.
So I'm kind of confused by it as well.
It was a 3-organization deal, right? It was Glory, Infusion, and Rise, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So what are the infusion weight classes? I'm not a kickboxing expert, so I don't really know. I'm sure Daniel Zubicki, he would know, the Polish Twitter reporter. He knows about infusion. So we should ask him if they have the lighter weight divisions.
Yeah. I'm also like super hesitant to put any stock in this till I start seeing results, just because, I mean, what Pancrase had to deal with Invicta FC, which was like one fighter exchanged one time. So I'll wait until I see what actually happens.
Until you see like a Glory X Rise card or something. It's not like, remember like Ryzen like actually had like representatives from like the different promotions, like, and they all did the.
Oh, that was awesome. They would come out like the flags, like the Road FC guy, and they had the KSW. Yeah,
so I think unless you see something distinct like that, then I think it's a what should we call it? It's a relationship in name only.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a tool. Maybe they just maybe Rise wants to put on heavyweight fights, and they use 2 Glory heavyweight kickboxers. And Glory wants to put on some lighter weights and brings over 2 Japanese lighter weights to fight each other.
Or how about they bring some
enter each other's markets?
Deep MMA fighters to fight in kickboxing and Rise. And then they fight the
Deep
Glory.
Kick is real. Deep Kick is a real organization.
Oh, I forgot. I apologize. I forgot. Deep Kick is real. It is real. It is not. There's not a Mandela effect. It actually exists.
Yes.
Sometimes.
When they want
it. It's like Bellator kickboxing. It's real and exists. It's just we have to see the event happen.
Bellator kickboxing does not exist. I'm pretty sure that none of that stuff actually ever happened. I think all that stuff was implanted in our minds, and we've all been programmed to believe it actually happened. That glory Bellator show never happened. No, Dynamite Bellator never happened.
Oh, that show was so awesome.
I would agree with you, if not just to the fact that the Joe Schilling loss was so hilarious that he lost to Kato. Was it Kato?
Yes.
Yeah.
In an MMA and a kickboxing match.
Yeah.
It's like
vicious knockouts. Those were awesome.
And then Joe Schilling became 1-0 in bar fights.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, Joe.
I think I learned an important lesson that day.
Hey, Joe Schilling almost won one of Glory's last 8-man one-night Grand Prix that they held. He almost won that. He made it to the finals, and that was actually really fun. Crow Cop was on that card too. To piggyback on what CJ was saying earlier about the history of kickboxing and mixed martial arts together in Japan, he's absolutely correct. That's when they set the record. Remember, for 91,000 fans was with K1 and Pride FC. They set that record. Now, I believe they're going to go for the same. They're going for the record, I think, with the Takeru Tenshin Super Fight. And I'm guessing that they're going to have do a combo card with mixed martial arts and kickboxing, and not just have a straight kickboxing card.
Have they said what arena it's going to be, CJ? Is it Tokyo Dome?
I don't think they've said yet. I think someone told me what arena they were targeting. I can't remember them.
Because
I'm gonna go ahead and say that it's probably the new national stadium that they use for the Olympics, huh, CJ?
It just depends. I mean, there's so many factors going into it. I mean, corona cases are on the rise. I think Omicron's finally caught on in Japan.
cover your ears, JayWolf.
Things get shut down.
No, it's not happening.
I don't think they would do Saitama though, because if remember you said that Rizin owns that arena. So I would figure that they don't
own that arena. They reserve the dates.
Oh, okay. But like but I thought, didn't you say that like if other promotions want to use it, they have to pay Rizin or something?
No, what what was happening was that the kickboxing event was going to happen. If people thought it was going to happen on a day that Rising reserved, then they were going to have to pay Rising to use that slot.
Oh, I got you.
Because Rising already had it reserved.
Gotcha.
By the way, JayWolf, the divisions in the divisions in Infusion are, if I'm not mistaken, strawweight, flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, and open weight for the women. Bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight for the men.
What sounds like they're going to benefit much more from the Infusion partnership than the Glory partnership.
Yeah, because they have lighter guys, so that's good. That's great news.
Like you said, CJ, when it happens, then we'll believe it. I have to agree with you on that. This fight, unfortunately, was not as exciting as Yaman Koji. Kazuma Sone continuing on his beautiful rising winning streak of 0 to whatever at this point. Soccer kick loss to Shinobu Ota. I was bored with this fight up until like even the finish didn't even excite me. I was just like, okay.
No.
Oda lost. Oda won because Sone is honestly, he's not a good fighter. He's just not a good fighter at this point. I don't know how he beat Ishihara. You know, maybe Ishihara was drunk or had too much sex the night before and had no energy. But like, Sone lost not because I thought that Oda was better. I thought Sone lost because Sone is just, he's done. He's like it was like a very awful fight by him.
Dude, Ota's an Olympian though. He's the Olympic medalist, correct? In wrestling?
Yeah.
Yes, but Shinobu Ota soccer kicked that ass.
Yes, he did, and stomped him. And stomped that
But
ass.
he didn't even realize that until like the second round. Something happened with Sone. I don't know if he got injured or something, but he seemed to be like, something happened during this fight where like, I don't know if he like was like rocked really bad or something, but he was like, or exhausted or something, but he just seemed to be like, and then speaking of referees as well, referees is, you know, at least on camera, I don't know if you saw CJ on the big Titantron thing. Sone looked like he was like, just like out of it. Like, yeah. His brain, like he was in another planet. And everybody left for this fight. Did you happen?
Yeah, the crowd got up and left. It's kind of funny. I took a video of it. Like it's like a mass exodus.
Did you see the fight after, or have you not watched it?
Oh, I haven't watched it since. No, I mean, it's getting really low attention on YouTube. I don't think anyone really cares about it.
Really, even with the badass finish, man, that's disappointing.
I just don't think people care about Ota so much.
Really, even though he's
there's other soccer kicks. I mean, the Miura fight's getting way more attention.
That has over 1 million views.
Yeah,
dude, that Miura, that fight you guys talking about, that was awesome. That was a good opening round.
His dad looked like a stud too. He's wearing that white fedora, sitting ringside.
Yeah. I have to say though here's the thing. I think you didn't care about this fight because it was an Ota versus Shuto Watanabe, DJ.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I'm like a scorned girlfriend. I will reject this replacement sent to sate me when Shuto Watanabe is not even on the card. Oh my God. On a side note, I saw that Shuto Watanabe teaches personal lessons. And you can like take a group of 5 people to go learn from Shuto Watanabe. I have no idea if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I'm in. We're just going to eat ice cream together and talk about magical chokes.
I mean, Yeah, no, I was just not impressed. Oda's win was not the finish. Doesn't the problem is that like Oda, I think he only won because Sone's an awful fighter at this point. I think
My problem with it is that the expectations for him are so incredibly high because he's an Olympic gold medalist. And it was almost impossible to like meet the expectations that have been put upon him. And it's just, especially the last fight was so incredibly boring that there's like still a hangover effect from that, I think.
Mm-hmm. But it's only his third fight, though. People got to give him more of a chance than that. It's only his third fight, and dude, he just showed the ability to finish with pride rules. I mean,
man, when it's an 8-hour-long event after that guy's last fight, and the next fight coming up is the Sarah Kubo live
They put that fight there because they wanted to get it over with. They knew that. Yeah. I have to believe that. And if you want to, because listen, if Oda, if he has name value, listen, Rizin will siphon name value. But he was at the big. He followed Kota Miura. He followed.
It's the safe thing. You put him on before the Fuji TV broadcast, and if something crazy happens, you show a replay on the Fuji TV, but you don't risk putting it on live.
But yeah, that's the thing about this Ota, like. And again, he did the same thing, takedowns, lay on, and then something happened during the fight, and Sone presumably looked like he got injured, and just like, he couldn't get up or whatever. And Ota remembered that he doesn't have to just lay on a person when they fall down. You remember he could do soccer kicks.
Yeah,
if you put him up against somebody like Shuto Watanabe, or I don't know, any other like any other people in that like the weight division, like. I think he gets submitted easily. If you put him against a striker like Kenta Takizawa, he can be knocked out. I think that I don't see what Ota has done to like. This is one fight, by the way. This is only one fight. Let's see who his next fight is. Let's see if it's another tough opponent. Let's see if it's an actual tough opponent.
He's fallen into that trap of it's like, he's a great wrestler, but he hasn't shown us that he's an MMA fighter yet.
Yes. If you wanted to do that Ursan fight, I think that Ursan fight is interesting because from the wrestling background and because I hate to say it, but they're both kind of not that good as Rizin would like them to be. So I would be not.
And I would hope that Itsuki Hirata is involved somehow, and then we could all be happy.
Jay Chris, any thoughts on this Ota Sone fight?
I thought that Ota kicked Kazuma Sone's ass in that fight. I really thought that because when it comes down to let's just face it. When it comes down to fucking nothing. That first round was solely Shinobu Ota. And he may be an Olympic silver medalist, not gold.
Silver medalist. My bad, silver.
Silver.
Be an Olympic silver medal wrestler, but he sure kicked that man's ass like it was a gold medal squash match. And when it came to the second round, dude was cocked, rocked, and ready to drop down on Sone, which is exactly what he did by stomping his ass as if he was the ground floor.
Well, actually. So that's next question. What do you do with Sone? CJ, what do you do with Sone? Is he Rizin's resident jobber at 135?
I mean, at this point, it's just how big can his losing streak get? Let's keep him around. Let's get him down. Let's get him like a Bob Sapp tour of shame level losing streak going.
But I think Rizin. This is the thing we talked about before. We're like, it can be promoted at losing can be promoted as a comeback or something like that.
But as soon as they get access to foreign fighters again, fighters like this are just going to disappear from Rising, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Unless they do it for Okinawa.
Or how about put him on you guys want to throw him on a trigger card? Because you said triggers for like the veterans and like prospects and stuff, so.
Maybe he can work the concession stand.
Yeah, but here's the thing. When it comes down to having these 24 and 22 fighters like Sone, you don't want to treat trigger and landmark like it's fucking Velocity and Heat or something for the WWE fans out there. You don't want to treat it as like a show where you got jobbers facing off against up and comers.
I think there's a balance though between, I mean, like I just don't see like what he does. Does he actually like? I'm really curious to know. Like, does he actually like? Does he bring in audience? Is he like Cozy? Where he whatever he
No, I think it's clearly just like he's got a shit ton of fights, and it's like, oh, if Ota beats him, it makes Ota look good because he beat a guy with a bunch of fights.
Again, what depending on how Ota looks in his next fight, like again, they put him against Shudo Watanabe. I picked Shudo every day of the year to beat him.
I mean, I pick Shudo in every fight he's in. So.
Oh, that's different. That's different. Because Shudo is the best. However, I'll tell you the true best of this entire Rizin 33 show, and we gotta give a shout out to Kota Miura.
First off, this fight was promoted brilliantly because not only is Miura super popular, Yushi's popular now. People are like, "Oh, that guy's hilarious." That guy.
He was.
The host club he works at sent a giant bouquet of flowers that was on display in the entrance.
CJ, I gotta ask, who gives these? So throughout the show, it seemed like the flowers got bigger and bigger in size. Yeah. I don't know if that was my eyes playing tricks on me, but who delivers these flowers? Is it like
sponsors? They're the sponsors.
Okay.
It's like in sumo. If you like watch a sumo tournament, when the guy wins, he lifts up like 30 trophies. Because companies compete to give the most badass trophy. And so sponsors give out those flowers. Usually the person that handed out the flowers was like wearing weird clothing. I think one of the girls was dressed like a video game character, like a Yankee video game girl. So that was like some video game company that was sponsoring
I
that
think
fight.
It was probably somebody off Dead or Alive. I think it was somebody that Lenny Hart probably might know.
Well, I think there's like some video game, like cell phone game about like you guys know what Yankees are? Like those like Japanese girls that ride motorcycles and get in fights. And I think there's a video game based off of it. So there's like a girl dressed like that character that gave out flowers in one of the fights, but they're usually corporate sponsors.
So I mean, like, so you were there, CJ. What was like, I guess, the atmosphere for this fight?
Oh, they're all about it. People completely bought it. Like the Rising Confession turned him into a darling. People were all about Miura being like, I know I come from a famous dad, but I'm here to make my own name. They all love that storyline.
Fighters in the dojo or whatever it was, and yes, living. I think he also lived at the gym, or they said he lived with one of the fighters or something.
It's possible, yeah. And then his dad was there, and his mom's also famous. His dad was dressed in the nines. The guy looked like a fashion model. Yushi came out and just ate this. He milked that walkout for all it was worth,
yeah,
like dancing as he came out.
He did.
And
that was probably the top walkout of the night.
Oh, how dare you! But he got completely outclassed and still made it exciting. So
yeah,
people
one of the
it.
top walkouts of the night.
Because I know when we first talked about this fight, I don't think any of us were really looking forward to it because we're like, "What the fuck? What's going to happen?" And
I mean, we were basically not looking forward to it because it was an amateur fight. But
they sprinkled the rising goodness on it.
Yeah, but because of the fact that it came directly after the Parade of Fighters and after Japanese Olympic champion skateboarder Yuki Horigome, I think is his name. He's a young 23-year-old skateboarder who just won gold in the street style skateboarding. Gold medal for the Olympics, but still, after that opening, after the Parade of Fighters, we all thought this was gonna suck the show up until Kota Miura came and soccer kicked that Instagram model.
Yeah, thank God that Wada missed the submission, or else he wouldn't have gotten the soccer kick.
Oh yeah. By the way, he took this picture that he was out. He was dead out.
His arms went limp.
Even Wada did the whole, thing with the arm. And here's the thing. If Kota Miura, so I don't know if this is, I'm going to say blame Wada, but Kota Miura did let go of the guillotine. He did let go, and that may have, I don't know, like him letting go of the guillotine, it's kind of like that weird gray area. Yeah. However, I do definitely like Wada, like I don't know how, like I don't know, like
What the hell was he looking at? He's staring right at the lifeless corpse.
And then
at least it didn't end up, because the worst example of that is the Celine Haga Invicta FC fight where her opponent was unconscious and then she lost the fight by decision.
was that the
So
Kim Couture? Was that Kim Couture one where?
The Kim Couture, it was very similar, but I think Celine Haga, the bell rang, they had her get up, and as she got up, her opponent was just laying there unconscious on the ground, who then won the decision, which is just like, what the fuck just happened? So at least in this case, the guy that got screwed ended up winning it anyway. So
yeah. But listen, I predicted the only way that he could win this fight was by soccer kick.
Yes.
And listen, that was an awesome soccer kick that he did. And by the way,
it hit him more in the chest, didn't it?
Yeah,
they could not soccer kick in the head, apparently. Apparently, that was one of the rules for this fight. You couldn't soccer kick in the head.
A smart call by the Instagram model. Got to protect the goods.
Yeah.
This is the money maker.
Listen, I mean, like, this is Kota Miura's first fight. I don't know, like, what happens next.
You got to bring him up slow. He's at the beginning. You got to get him guys his skill level. You got to make this an investment project.
I was gonna say, you know what he should do? Instead of just being owning and rising, he's got to be like fighting in deep or something, or like something like that. He's got to like fight like some like 0-0 fighter in deep or something. I don't know if he wants to do that.
I wonder what Sone is doing next. Maybe they could fight each other.
I would actually pick Miura to win that. I would actually legitimately put Miura to beat Sone at this point.
Like, Ursa Yamamoto and Sone on speed dial. We need someone with a name for him to fight.
I mean, like, yeah, because like I don't know, like you can only go to a certain point. He's 19, I think, like 19 or 20, right?
He's very young. Yeah, I think he's 19.
You can only go to a certain point before like he actually has to start like facing real people, or maybe he wants to start facing real people. But like you gotta start fighting. Yeah, I think that he's gotta go to something like deep where he can just get some more in, well, I guess cage in fight time. Figure out, hey, I may fight an opponent who will take me all 3 rounds, but I can still win all 3 rounds,
Or they put him on some trigger shows and have him fight washed up veterans and prospects.
Listen, but like washed up veterans could still potentially like beat him. Like, but
he's going to need to fight them eventually. He's going to need to fight that level eventually.
If you put Miura against like Shoji, I think that's a bad fight. Like in terms of like,
do you go on like some like host club tour where you have each host club bring up their toughest host and he just tries to become the host king of Tokyo?
Yeah. Actually, that's the other question. So, CJ, what were your thoughts on Yushi after this fight?
Brilliant. Marketed himself. I mean, not a good fighter, but marketed himself very well.
Have you seen his Instagram?
I mean, lots of pictures of his shirt off.
Yes. I saw his Instagram before this fight. I was like, this guy does not have an ounce of fat on him. Like, he's
a host, potentially a male prostitute. I don't know, but he seems to be doing very well.
Wait, really?
I also liked how his Instagram description didn't even include like anything about fighting. It was just like hair, fashion, fitness,
model, or bodybuilder.
He said he owned a salon or something.
Hey man, he's killing it.
Yeah. His tweets and stuff get hundreds, if not thousands, of likes and stuff on it. So, I mean, did you guys see the tweet he made where he was explaining how he made his outfit for the walkout? It was like it was supposed to be different, but at the last minute he added some stuff to it to make it look like a Michael Jackson style coat. That's where we got the inspiration from for that walkout, was from Michael Jackson. That's why he looked so smooth walking out there and it was styling. And then
he knew how to promote himself.
I'd like it back.
JayWolf, quickly, your thoughts on this fight?
Oh, I did. I had a great time on this fight. It was a great, exciting fight, and it ended in a soccer kick from the Soccer Sun star. I mean, dude, it was awesome. And Yushi, like, he brought the house down with his walkout. It was super styling and everything. And I thought it was a great first fight. That also because it was so unexpected, because we didn't expect much from it, like you were saying, and then it delivered the goods and just kicked off the show in spectacular fashion. So I really enjoyed it, to be honest.
I was gotta say, King Kazu should not have worn white. He chose the worst color to wear, because after Miura went to go hug him, that coat, that probably really expensive coat, was just like covered in blood.
Sell it, make some money.
So like yeah, so he should have not have worn white on that day.
White blood.
In a way, now you have to think about. I mean, if this was an amateur fight, you have to think that the next fight for Kota Miura would have to be at the professional level, right?
Well, was this pro or I'm seeing different? Like Rizin said it was pro, but Tapology says it's AMI. I have no idea. Like what?
Wait a minute. Sure Dog say it was pro.
I don't know. Sure Dog. I don't. They don't. They're so behind. I don't know.
Yeah,
Listen,
Sure Dog's gone downhill since they made
Rizin might do. Right, and Rizin did this for Hagiwara. They might just absorb his amateur record into his pro record, so that
oh my god, that pisses me off so much when the UFC does that with their tough fights. Like
Yeah.
the record, I'm like, wait, are they including their Ultimate Fighter fights on there as well?
Yeah, because all the fighters are technically exhibitions. They're not. Yeah, so like they do that. Like yeah, but I think they did that with Hagiwara's record, because Hagiwara's like original record was like 1-2 or 1-3 or something. So then they added his amateur fight, so it became like even after he won his.
I'm pretty sure that Rising is going to consider this a real win.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Tapology is a little bit. I mean, here's the thing. It was. I mean, there was nothing amateur about it. The rules were just a little bit different. They didn't wear headgear. It was going to go to. If it went to decision, judges would.
And it was full blown Rizin rules. Let's be real.
Half, because they didn't allow sock kicks to the head. But nonetheless, they didn't wear. As far as I'm concerned, if it's like they're not wearing headgear, then it's not an amateur. It's not amateur. If there's once I see some guy put on a headgear and shin guards, I'm like, oh, this is amateur. Like the those deep fights, CJ, where the they don't allow.
Amateur rules fights are awful. It's just like in Japan. It's just like, oh, no punches to a grounded opponent, and it's just like, it's awful. Yeah.
So what we're saying here is that Kota Miura is now officially a pro fighter. Correct?
As far as I'm concerned, yeah, this is a pro fight.
Sure, he was paid.
Yeah, I have to believe he was definitely paid. Yeah, that's Rizin 33. CJ, you have a fight night and or finish or two of the nights?
Oh my god, you caught me off guard.
Oh, sorry. If we can come back to you.
JayWolf go, yeah.
Yeah, JayWolf.
Okay, let me go. I'm ready for this question. All right, Drew. So you want my thoughts on this Rizin 33 card? You want the fight of the night? You want the finishes of the night and everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The finishes of the night are the Miura soccer kick that we were just talking about, and the Ota soccer kick and stomp finish. I mean, you always got to go with the Pride Rules finishes because they're so spectacular. I love them so much. It's just awesome. And then for the fights of the night, you know what? I'm going to go with a couple, okay? Because the Siki Izawa fight, that was just a star-making performance. She utilized the Epic Rizin superior rule set with the up kicks to make it happen. That was definitely one of the highlights of the night for me. And then the Hiramasa's GP final run, where he won he won the one night GP final, won 2 fights in the night, and it was just such a great story. I mean, that's why I like calling it Epic Rizin. That was like the definition of an epic. An epic is a poem about heroes going on an adventure and stuff. And what was more epic than what happened on Epic Rizin's New Year's Eve? That was Hiramasa going on an epic journey, action-adventure journey, going through adversity in the first match, coming back, doing a gritty comeback to win, advance to the final, and then shut down one of the top fighters in Kaya Zakura to win the final. And then after he completes the epic storyline, he gets the girl at the end of the story and proposes to his woman and gets the woman at the end of the story. So that's like the definition of what epic is. That's why I like to call it Epic Rizin. So, I mean, I thought it was a great night all around. I had a great time. You know, it went all the way to 6 in the morning, and it was very difficult for me. I don't know how much longer I can watch live with you guys, but I I was just loving every second of it. I mean, I was really tired at the end of it. I couldn't give a final, like shout out a tweet because I was so tired. I just went right to bed. But dude, it was so action packed. It was just a great night. And like I already get, and I think I don't know which one I picked for fight of the night. Maybe Drew, I'll pick the heavyweight bout for fight of the night because Shrek just put on a great performance. He loved it so much. But there was some great matches. Like, I mean, it was just too tough to pick just one. But yeah, I think for the finishes, Ota and Miura, and then the Hiromusa's Grand Prix final run was I'm gonna combine that for the fight of the night, and then Sika Izawa, and those are my star making performances of the night. So, all right, CJ, you ready now?
I am ready. All
right.
So much happened on the card. It's kind of hard to decide because there were a lot of good fights on the card.
You also have live in-person bias as well.
Yeah. So I think if I want to pick the best fight, I feel like Yaman versus Koji was probably the best fight.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that one because it was Jay Kick. You're absolutely right.
Because, I mean, a lot of the other fights that I enjoyed were kind of like one-sided. And to me, it could be like a really good, I like back and forth when I'm considering the best fight. And top moment, I mean, the entrances for Shibatar and Kubo were awesome. In person, they were amazing, and I loved every second of them. I thought it was hilarious that Shibatar sang as his entrance. I thought it was like a challenge to Sarah Kubo because she also sang. And Seika Izawa is clearly the breakout star of the event. After the fight, you could hear people in the halls talking about it, like no one expected that to happen. And so it was a very big upset. But favorite fight is a Yaman Koji. Favorite moment might be the entrances, and Seika is the breakout star.
Chris, good sir?
Well, Andrew, I was thinking that you would probably go ahead and say your favorite fights because I'm probably going to be the main one closing this damn thing out. So
okay, well, I could go in that case. Well, fight night for me, Miura versus Yushi. Listen, when I see somebody get put into an armbar and triangle like that and they're not tapping, listen, I get excited for that shit. Especially when like the arm looks like it's about to snap in half. So, and then, fair play to Yushi. Even though he got fucking choked out and was dead when we were there, he still continued to fight. Or at least try to fight to the best he could. And especially because I had no idea how this fight was going to go. I was like, what is going to happen? But it ended in a soccer kick by the soccer star's son. So I think it was the perfect debut and the perfect fight to open with and a perfect finish. Like all that rolled into one. Really, really, really happy. Finishes of the night, probably still have to go with Cozy. I'm sorry, not Cozy. Kota soccer kick over Yushi. And then, listen, Seika Izawa, triangle ground and pound over Ayaka. It was just like,
absolutely.
I can't believe that. Like, and here's the thing: it wasn't like Ayaka fucked up and like, oh god, I dominated the first round. It was 2 rounds, 2.5 or whatever rounds of domination, and the fact that she just like there was not. It seemed like Ayaka was like her game, whatever game plan she had, it was not working, and whatever Seika Izawa decided to do was like working 100%. So I really. Yeah, those were my 2. I really enjoyed those. Fuck Ota. Just kidding, JayWolf.
Well, Andrew, you pretty much just have a lot of pent up aggression there. You might want to take that out on the BJJ mat.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, shit. Where are you going?
Jim, they're just like, why does Drew keep saying "fuck Ota" every time he submits somebody?
I mean, shit, man. Andrew, you would probably do better against Shinobu Ota than Kazuma Sone did. I don't see you going out there and fighting.
Well, listen, if Rise ever made the offer and they say like Shinobu Ota, I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, I would be so confident. Like, if he wrestles me for 3 rounds, yeah, I'm going to lose. But like, I think I don't know, like, what else, like, the fact that Hideo Tokoro, like, submitted him to, like, the way he did, and, like, that's the first thing you learn in jiu-jitsu class, first day. is like arm bars, guard and arm bars.
Don't you act like Tokoto's just your average nobody, submits everybody.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying is that like that's the first thing you learn is arm bars and all that stuff. And you should have figured, oh, what is Tokoro? How does he win almost all of his fights? With arm bars. Better defend against that.
It's like he didn't watch the Yamamoto Ursa and Tokoro fight at all.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's I just was like perplexed that like he didn't like yeah. I was just like, that's what you should have done. Your game plan should have just been to wrestle him and lay on top of him for 3 rounds. And listen, yeah, it was boring, but listen, that's how Shinobu Ota can win against Tadeo Tokoro. But Jay Chris, go ahead.
You crazy, Andrew. But then again, if you weren't crazy, I wouldn't be a part of this show.
Exactly, yes.
But still, though, my favorite fights of the night, aside from the disgrace that was Atsushi Shibatar Saito versus Yuta Kubo, and aside from the Hiromasa Ougikubo true underdog story, my favorite fights of the night would have to be Roberto Satoshi de Souza defeating Yusuke Yachi via triangle armbar, and it would have to be, and I might have to watch this fight back again just to make sure, just to actually see the epic upset that it was, Seiki Izawa beating up Ayaka Hamasaki, because I'm telling you right now, her and Siwoo Park are probably going to be the reason why the old hags get pushed out the door for Rizin in like 2 years. No disrespect. I'm not trying to sound like an asshole or anti-feminist prick. Shit. I just wish I had a girlfriend myself, but still, though. I think that Siwoo Park and Seiki Izawa are going to be the main stars within the next couple of years, if not for Japanese MMA, then definitely for the global MMA scene. And I think that in about a couple of years' time, we're going to see names like Reina Hamasaki and Miyu Yamamoto just not drop off the face of the earth, but just retire from the sport of MMA completely.
You channeled your inner Aoki there. I think Aoki also calls them the old women.
Sorry, Chris. I'm going to walk back my fight of the night. Kota Miura got his reward for finish of the night. I have to say Shrek versus Shibasai, because that was one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen. Sorry, take it back.
Oh, my God.
But I think Aoki also calls those ladies the old hags, essentially. So you're in good company.
Does he? Oh, hey, at least I'm not getting choked out like I'm even some shit.
I think Aoki gets mad. I think Aoki gets mad because he helps train Itsuki Hirata, and they were all being like, why is she doing all this stuff and not other people? And he's like, they're just complaining because they're old.
I was actually on Aoki's YouTube channel, and I was watching him.
Did you see what he said to Yachi? He was like,
I saw that.
He's like, you idiot, we trained that.
I heard him say Baka Yodo or Baka. He called him like Baka or something.
Yeah, I called him stupid. He's like, we worked on that, you idiot.
But it was funny just watching him, teaching him all this stuff, and like when they actually went to grapple, Aoki was just like dominating this guy who's maybe I wouldn't say bigger, but certainly more stronger. I would say, and like Aoki just like this guy's like nothing.
You're a jiu-jitsu guy. Aoki's got really good grappling for MMA, but how does he compare to like high-level jiu-jitsu guys?
Well, he's beaten. Let's see. I think he's made ADC trials, or at least I think he made the Japanese. I think he's qualified for Japanese. I think.
That doesn't mean that much. Like it's Seiko Yamamoto made that based only off of her wrestling career.
Good point, and so does Shrek Sakine.
Yeah.
So I'll answer that question after. Chris, just I want to finish your thoughts about. Did you give your thoughts to finish on the night?
Oh, I already gave my thoughts. Finish of the night.
Okay, no problem.
De Souza. It's De Souza, Izawa, and as far as decisions go, I would definitely have to say the end of the Ougikubo true underdog story arc, him beating Kai Asakura. Those are my fights of the night.
Oh, going back to the Aoki thing, don't forget that Aoki originally was a judoka. So he was trained the gi. His stuff for the gi is like amazing.
No, I was
And,
just
like,
curious because I remember like Imanari started competing in jiu-jitsu stuff and started getting like smoked kind of by actual leg lock experts. So I'm kind of curious how Aoki ranked as well.
Well, I know Imanari and Gary Tonin had a Polaris match, and
Yeah.
here's also the thing is that Gary Tonin was like 2 sizes bigger than him.
That's true.
And Aoki was doing well against Tonin in their one match. By the way, it's a fucking great match. If Tonin eventually, I think he was just one step ahead of Aoki.
Tonin, all natural, 100% natural.
Yes, all natural.
All natty.
all that, especially with DDS, are all natty.
He and Shrek must have the same doctor.
But I think that Aoki's jiu-jitsu like pure grappling was all like gi related stuff, and I think his stuff from the gi, like he was always an armbar freak, in the gi, and he was still an armbar freak when he went to MMA. But like in terms of like no gi grappling, like I don't think he's done a lot of professional no gi grappling for the most part. I think most of his grappling has just been gi stuff. His entire career, and he's just had like the occasional super fights.
I was just curious because I know he's really good in MMA. I was just wondering from a jiu-jitsu perspective.
But nonetheless, like his jiu-jitsu, like overall, is like fantastic and like one of the best. Like he's one of the most.
He's a wizard.
He's one of the most flexible people I've heard. Like people who roll with him say he's one of the most flexible people and one of the most deceptively strong people that they've ever like grappled with. And he doesn't look like, when you look at him, you think that, this nerd who smokes 4 packs a week or whatever, and he wears glasses. Well, this guy can't do anything. And this guy can like break guard easily. He can get.
Meanwhile, he's grappling with Imanari naked in bathhouses. Some of the weirdest pictures to ever surface.
Is that the way to become a grappling wizard?
He's definitely in a.
We can go ahead and discuss that story for another time, but I think it's about that time for us to go ahead and call it in. And
come on, Jay Chris, one more hour. Come on.
No. Time is among us, and CJ, you're up the latest of us all. You had to stay up for
11
a good.
I'm fine.
Yeah, but still, though, let's go ahead and wrap this bad boy up. The next Rizin event is supposed to be in February. It's supposed to be Rizin Trigger the 2nd. If there's more information about this that comes to mind, we hope to be able to give it to you either via the We Are Rizin podcast Twitter account or the Focus Fights Twitter account. We Are Rizin Twitter account is at We Are Rizin Pod, WeareRizinPod, all in one word. The Focus Fights Twitter account is at Focus_Fights, FOCUSFIGHTS. And as far as where you can find us, you can find JayWolf on Twitter at JayWolf1, or subscribe to Random Acoustic Thoughts. I'm sounding like I have Tourette's over here, for fuck's sake.
And
subscribe to Acoustic Thoughts for JayWolf. Check out sogukaku.com, sogu-kaku.com for CJ, or follow him on Twitter at CJ_sogukaku. You can follow Andrew on Twitter at abenja1 and check him out on MMA Sucker. And you can follow me on Twitter at ChrisGary92 or on Instagram at ChristianGary1992. Which, oh, by the way, I got an Instagram account. Y'all can follow me there. But still, though, you can follow our show on Twitter, obviously, but you can also hope to check us out on, well, first of all, we hope you subscribe to this YouTube channel. We hope to at least get to 200 subscribers by this year. But we hope that y'all enjoy what we put out in the open, and we hope that y'all enjoy what we give to y'all on the We Are Rizin podcast. And hopefully, Andrew can get his shit together. We can get the show out on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or wherever you get your podcast of choice. Now, do we need y'all to have any final thoughts?
Well, I was going to say, CJ, you said you're working on something. anything that you can promote or, say, hey, beware of this.
I'm still working on my Rising review article because I'm like nerdily waiting for numbers to come in, and I'm waiting to see what the glove auction prices are. So once those ends today, once the glove auction price is in, I'll have all I need to write that.
CJ,
I'm working on translating a Saudi
number?
Oshima interview.
I was gonna say, did you get the ratings numbers?
Yeah, it's like seven something. It's like 7.8 or something.
Okay, so those weren't the preliminary numbers; those were the final numbers.
Yeah, there was like 7 something, right? I may be wrong.
Yeah, I saw those too. I just wondered, you gonna include those in your article and stuff, hopefully?
Yeah.
Excellent.
YouTube numbers. Look at some Google trends. Mikuru's clearly the biggest star. I'm also working on translating a Saudi Oshima interview, but that's taking forever.
I like what
much
you
longer
did,
than Seika Izawa.
With the was it the Instagram? Yeah, the social media stuff where you looked at somebody before they were on the show and then after, and like looked at their like difference in like numbers and like.
Yeah, it's so time intensive though because there's no automated way to do it. You have to like manually keep track because I've tried to. I haven't found a way to like scrape the data, so I have to manually go to everyone's social media page. It just takes forever, so I don't get to do that as much as I would like.
Well, what I would do is before, like an hour or so before the show starts. Well, you do it after the fight, and do you not do it when then a fight's announced, or do you do it like the day before the fight?
I think it'd be more to get the best data. I think ideally, what I would like to do is at the beginning of the year keep track of how many followers everyone has. And then as a fight's announced, maybe just watch it from there. But I have lots of ideas and I'm too busy to be able to do all of this.
I get it. And then you got Let's Talk JMMA. New episode just came out. Unfortunately, I haven't listened to it yet. But
and when it comes down to the Let's Talk JMMA podcast with CJ and Shu Hirata, you can also get it on the same platforms as I mentioned. Well, with the exception.
I'm noticing some bitterness. I feel like Jay Chris wants the podcast on all of the networks.
Well, hey, I'm not trying to call into anybody's podcast in particular. I know that you and Shu are pretty tight, but I don't want to try and be an asshole and just bogart on everybody's podcast just for the fuck of it.
And also, by the way, CJ, if you ever get that Sarah Kubo interview, good luck on talking with her.
So far, no response. I will keep trying. Sarah Kubo, that's up there with the date girls.
Maybe you have to put in your press credentials for Rizin. That's the way you get her.
Yeah, maybe you have to pretend to be like a music producer. Maybe she's more interested in music.
Or say you're a reality TV show producer.
No. There you go.
Say you work
maybe I should contact Kubo. He seems easier to deceive.
Well, who knows? Really? Yeah.
CJ's got all the one-liners tonight, man.
Wow, that's fucking savage. Jay, are you writing anything or doing that anymore? I hope you do.
Yes, I do. I just want to say thank you to you guys at We Are Rising podcast for this fantastic show and all the shows that you invited me on. And I just really appreciate you guys having me on. And, I love talking to you guys. I love talking to the fans, the Rising family. And, also I want to say to CJ, thank you for all that you contribute and all the content you create. I love reading through it all and everything.
Thank you.
Dude, it's excellent. And also I want to talk to the Rising people themselves, the Rising brass. I want to say, please keep doing what you're doing. Do not change anything. Your rule set is just absolutely sensational. It's a superior rule set. Do not ever puss out like one did and take out stomps or soccer kicks. You must keep the full superior rule set. It's just so sensational. It's just awesome. I love it so much. And then, I just want to say just thank you and love it. And also, of course, pride never die. Pride is rising. That's
exactly. And if you want to check out more about the Rizin Fighting Federation, you can do so via their social media handles. They are on Facebook and Instagram at Rizin Fighting Federation. They are on Twitter at Rizin_PR and at Rizin_English. And you can check out, they are on Twitter and Instagram at Rizin_PR as well as Rizin_English. And on YouTube, just Google search Rizin Fighting Federation. But that's about it from us for now. We thank you for being a part of the Rising Fan Nation, and we are thankful that you are able to join us on the We Are Rising podcast. Until we converge again, hopefully by the time February rolls around, and hopefully by the time the next Rising show rolls around, for JayWolf, Charles Jewett, Andrew Benjamin, I'm the Chillmeister, Chris Gary, saying peace, my peoples, in one love world. Protect yourself at all times. Pride never dies. But guess what? Like the great Lenny Hart always likes to say. And we out.